outcome of the country.
I don't prefer either candidate that was there, but out of what was offered, I had to choose what's closest to what I want.
Is it going to be Kamala? Is it going to be Trump?
I'd like to see change.
Nobody really knows until the 11th hour.
I'm sort of holding my breath to see what's going to happen with the fallout.
It's like Christmas. What's going to happen? Who is it going to be?
Hopefully everything goes smoothly, but we never know nowadays. So
A little nervous about what's going to happen.
Bickering and fighting, we all know, never solves anything. It leads to more problems.
We're ready to kind of just move forward.
And hopefully the country will all be behind whoever it is.
And we'll say goodbye to the roadside signs and hello to the Christmas light installer signs.
Yes, I'm so excited for Christmas.
It's definitely an interesting day when you can cover puke and Christmas in an election story, but that's sort of the broad depth of perception people have had with the election day today, and now with all the results coming in, and including these folks' votes, once they get in, may take them another 30 minutes to an hour to get their ballots in. Of course, they have to be driven down to Election Central to be counted with everyone else. Reporting live in Chula Vista, Joe Little, NBC7.
All right, Joe, thanks.
California voters are electing a new senator tonight to replace the late Dianne Feinstein. It's no secret that registered Democrats in California outnumber Republicans by almost 2-1. So that gives Representative Adam Schiff, of course, an upper hand in the race.
But his opponent, Republican Steve Garvey, hopes his professional baseball career can help propel him to victory. NBC7's political reporter Joey Saftic spoke with both candidates during their final full day on the campaign trail.
It's one of the most consequential, but not competitive races in California.
I'm going to fight to restore voting rights and reproductive freedom.
Quality of life and cost of living will attack right from the beginning.
Representative Adam Schiff has spent the election home stretch campaigning not just for himself, but for Democrats down the ballot across the state and country.
A lot of what Californians want me to do won't be possible if we're not setting the agenda in Congress.
The items on that agenda are
bringing down housing costs and bringing down childcare costs, addressing homelessness. The Tijuana River crisis is I think, one of the worst ecological disasters in the country. That is going to be an absolute top priority for me.
His opponent, baseball star Steve Garvey, is on the road in Southern California.
We need somebody who knows going to stand up for us and go to bat every day, so to speak, with a baseball term. And that's why we're very optimistic.
If he is called up to bat by voters, he wants to address the energy economy.
I think we have to get back to more oil and gas production, back to fracking. Let's get this economy moving.
Despite decades representing California in Congress, Schiff has declined to take a position on statewide ballot measures.
Voters are deeply interested in what I'm going to do on housing, what I'm going to do on food costs, what I'm going to do on gasoline, what I'm going to do on climate change. I don't think particularly that it's my role as a federal representative to involve myself in every ballot measure.
We asked Garvey about the hundreds of thousands of dollars he owes in back taxes, which he told us back in September he planned to have squared away by the end of the year. Now it's November.
By the end of the year, we'll probably have, I would say, it almost completely accomplished.
Joey Safchik, NBC7.
And the balance of power is also up for grabs in both the House and the Senate with this election.
While Republicans hold the majority in the House and Democrats are in control of the Senate, both parties hold a razor-thin margin. NBC7's Omari Fleming is keeping track of how things are trending throughout the evening. Omari.
Well, Monica and Mark, you're talking about that razor-thin margin of control. Coming into tonight, Republicans held the House with an 8-seat advantage, 220 to 212. And as votes start to roll in tonight, I want to give you an up-to-the-minute look at just the balance of power right now. You got Republicans right here. Republicans with 161 seats right now, Democrats 105. Now, the race to get control of the House is 218. And in order to get to that particular number, they're going to have to come through California to a degree. You've got a number of some of the candidates right here who are in here in California. Orange County is the area that these two are racing in. So you've got Derek Tran, who is running against Representative Michelle Steele right now. Also, we've got another Orange County race as well, too. You've got Dave Min that's going against Scott Baugh as well, too. So want to move to the Senate as well. In the upper house, that's where you got another razor-thin margin as well, 51 to 49. You see that right there, the Senate with the Democrats leading 51-49 right there. Already tonight, as expected, Republican and current Governor Jim Justice, he has flipped the West Virginia seat where longtime Senator Joe Manchin is retiring. So here's an up-to-the-minute look in terms of what the Senate seats are looking like right now. You've got Democrats 36, Republicans in the lead, 48 right there. Some of the other key races that you really have to look at right now that are having an impact, Pennsylvania, really tight race right there. You got Bob Casey in a dogfight. He's the incumbent there. He's losing right now. Also, another one you want to look at right next door in Ohio, Sherrod Brown losing to Bernie Moreno. They spent a lot of money in that particular race, some $500 million. Also, another one you want to keep an eye on is out here out west. Montana, incumbent Democrat John Tester, he's losing right now to Tim Sheehy. So, of course, we're keeping an eye on how things are shaping up in Congress, and we'll keep you up to date with any of the latest developments. Mark and Monica?
Okay.
All right, very well. Thanks you, sir.
As of 15 minutes ago, you can no longer get in line to vote or drop off a ballot.
Which means some voting centers are closing, and right now the process begins of getting ballots to the Registrar of Voters' office as we await the first round of unofficial local results. NBC7's Alexis Rivas joins us now outside the Registrar of Voters, where those ballots will be counted. Alexis.
Mark, so that first batch of unofficial results is only going to include ballots that were filled out in person today, or all of the ballots, sorry, forgive me here. It's all of the ballots that were filled out in person before today and all of the mail-in ballots that were received before today. That's the first batch, and that's going to be quite a lot. Apparently more than 900,000 voters here in San Diego County voted early, and more than 80,000 of them voted early in person. Eli Guerrero says he's normally among those early voters, but he likes to send his ballot in the mail. But this election, he came in person, and he allowed us to follow him through the process inside. So a poll worker first made sure he had a ballot in the language he preferred. Voters can choose one of 5 languages here in our county. Then another worker verified his registration and address. After that, another volunteer directed him to one of many available stations at that time. And finally, when he was finished, another poll worker officially dropped his ballot into the drop box. When all was said and done, Guerrero spent less than 10 minutes inside this voting center.
Very smooth, very fast, in and out. I thought it'd take a little longer. That way I don't have any excuses of anything happening in the future that I didn't do my part. I feel good that I voted, but I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in elections.
So throughout the night, there's going to be some updates to those unofficial results. The Registrar of Voters anticipates the first update to come in around 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night. And again, those updates will only include the people who voted in person at voting centers here and across the county. Live from Kearny Mesa, I'm Alexis Rivas for NBC7.
All right, Alexis, thank you so much. We'll check back. Todd Gloria wants to cinch his second term in office, but if he wins, it will be a hard-fought battle.
Independent Larry Turner made a name for himself in the San Diego political scene this cycle. NBC7's Joey Safchik joins us now. Joey, could someone who's not a Democrat and really was a political unknown really win in the city of San Diego?
That is the question, right, Mark? We have seen San Diego trend bluer and bluer. We have an all-Democratic city council. In fact, there are no Republicans running for election in this cycle in this city. That being said, this mayor's race is not necessarily a foregone conclusion, despite the fact that a year ago we didn't know if we would have a serious challenger facing off against Mayor Gloria. But then Larry Turner, this independent, did emerge from the woodworks. And despite being a political unknown and having no political experience, he has made a name for himself. This has been a hard-fought battle for Mayor Todd Gloria. We did speak to Turner today, and Turner has endeavored to create this coalition of people who are disillusioned with Mayor Gloria. They come from across the political spectrum. But Turner says that if he is not victorious tonight, he will not be running for political office in San Diego again. Take a listen.
I think that if the San Diegans can't see what's been going wrong for these last 4 years, and a majority of them voted for more of the same, then San Diego's in some trouble. I'm really putting a lot of faith in San Diegans that they realize everything is wrong. All of their senses, the sense of smell, their sense of touch.
The party here at Democratic headquarters is just getting started. We haven't seen Mayor Gloria yet, but we are expecting to hear from him soon. And of course, we'll bring you that update he likely does have the upper hand. This is still a deeply blue city. And as you can see, he has worked hard to tie himself to Vice President Kamala Harris. The two are longtime political allies. You could even go so far as to say friends. He often touts that she called him directly after the devastating floods in January, and he believes she would be a real ally to this city if they are both elected tonight. We asked Turner for the third time if he would share with San Diegans who he voted for at the top of the ticket for president. He declined again to share that. He says the mayor shouldn't take a position, that the mayor should be able to work with whoever is the president, whoever sits in the Oval Office. Of course, as results come in, we'll be watching this race very closely and a couple of other citywide races here at Democratic headquarters. Reporting live, Joey Safchik, NBC7.
Our Joey Safchik has been on top of everything leading up to this election. We'll check back with her. We want to bring in our panel for more perspective on the race for San Diego mayor. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. We have Scott Lewis with Voice of San Diego, Phil Moriello with podcast California Underground, and James Canning, who has worked in a number of capacities within the Democratic Party. Thanks for being here. You know, right off the bat, ping-ponging off of what Joey was talking about, that Larry Turner has failed to disclose who he's voting for. What do you make of that, Scott?
He did put out a written statement saying like he hasn't voted for Trump and he won't, but I don't know exactly what that meant. The problem is that this city is going to go for Kamala Harris, and so, but he needs support from the other side too, and so he's trying to cobble that together. And you know, you got if you're going to win a mayor's race against an incumbent, you got to prove that the incumbent needs to be fired and that you're the guy that needs to be hired. And that took a lot of resources, and it might have been too little too late when he got a little infusion from a donor.
Interesting. So typically this is not a partisan race per se. However, I think the question here is, how do San Diegans feel that Mayor Todd Gloria has done on some of the top issues, homelessness, cost of living, infrastructure and roads? Phil, what do you think people are thinking as they're headed to the polls?
Well, I think this is an interesting race because there just doesn't seem to be a lot of enthusiasm about Todd Gloria overall. And I just don't know a lot of enthusiastic Todd Gloria supporters. But I think for a lack of anything else, he's sort of the known commodity. People know he's been mayor. They know he's been in the political sphere, as opposed to Larry Turner, who is this new player, independent police officer. There was that issue of whether he lived in San Diego or lived in El Cajon. So he's sort of this unknown commodity as opposed to the devil you know better than the devil you don't know. So it's interesting that the enthusiasm over Todd Gloria hasn't been there, but he probably will likely win anyway, just for being that.
What are you watching in this race, James? Because that's true. He probably will win. However, if it turns out to be a close race, does that say something about the job that Todd Gloria is doing?
I mean, like Phil said, I mean, there's a little bit of trepidation by some Democrats about Todd. However, he's the person you can trust. I mean, Larry's said a bunch of things that you cannot trust. He's tried to lean on his military record, his police record. But I think most people trust a real politician, and he's not a politician. He's some guy that wants to be there. He's a shill for the Republican Party, and he's just there. And I don't think people care about him.
You know, it's interesting, Scott. We saw him in the final days leading up to Election Day here, kind of bond together with Colleen Cusack, Terry Hoskins, trying to say we can do better than the incumbent candidates. Do you think that was a good political strategy for him?
Well, you gather a coalition wherever you can, right? And I think there are a lot of people really frustrated with the homeless situation. A lot of ads saying like, hey, we cleaned up tents, and you see tents and you see suffering so many places. You see buildings that are decrepit. You see infrastructure that needs desperate revival. And you don't see the kind of urgency from City Hall that the people feel like is needed. And so I saw a lot of Kamala Harris and then Colleen Cusack signs, or Kamala Harris and Larry Turner signs.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people trying to express it, but the signs don't mean anything. At the end of the day, when you aren't well known, are the people who are kind of making their decisions in the last few days going to gravitate to something they don't know or something they do know, a name they have heard? And that's what's probably going to define the race.
But here in San Diego, we don't really have approval polls. So what is the litmus of how Mayor Todd Gloria is doing? James, you want
I think when you really look at it, like Larry Turner's homelessness plan is, let's keep doing what the city's doing and more. And so the reality is he's already acknowledging that the mayor's doing a lot and that he's going to add some extra stuff that he doesn't even know what it is yet. So I think Todd is the obvious choice. He knows how government works. He knows how it works. He was on your podcast, Larry was, talking about government in a way that was clear he didn't understand how all the dollars and cents work.
But that's probably a problem with Todd, right? Is that he does know, there's no question he knows the city government better than Larry Turner does. But in a way, that's almost paralyzed him, right? Like he sees risks in so many different spots. He sees problems. He sees inability to get stuff done. He sees just a burden and a kind of a miserable job. And so would you want to see somebody new come in and just kind of, do a whole different thing? The problem is Larry Turner that guy, right? Is he the one that could come in and just completely change that ship, change directions? Or would he be, snowed under so quickly?
And I think that's an important point. If you're going to be a challenger from the outside, like an independent, you have to make up with this with some sort of charisma or name notoriety to make up for the fact that you're not a well-known political commodity. And that's just San Diego mayoral races in the past couple elections. There just hasn't been any interesting challengers to what are basically lackluster Democrats running like Todd Gloria. So, I mean, it's a question of good challengers versus incumbents.
I mean, lackluster. I mean, I don't know. Larry standing there in front of the podium trying to inspire me to care about the city compared to Todd is a different thing. And I think there's in political leadership, you need someone who can inspire you, has a level of charisma, and along with being able to deliver on the goods. And I think that's what people need. And Larry standing up there kind of Frankenstein stiff. I don't think he's going to help me.
I by no means am a defender of Larry Turner. I'm just saying that Larry Turner does not meet the mark to be a decent challenger for Todd Gloria. And I think if it was a better challenger, maybe more charismatic, maybe more name recognition.
But that's the problem with the complete collapse of the Republican Party. And if Donald Trump is doing really well, that's great for the Republican Party nationally. But I think it means that the local Republican Party is in the wilderness again because they are unwilling. Turner's not even willing to talk about the presidential race, and any challengers it's going to get even more solidified. You see the Democrats just hammer Republicans if they have any connection to Trump, tenuous or full endorsement, and that's just been an anchor around them for years now. And if he wins, it's going to be even worse now for 4 years for any challengers. So then all that matters is going to be this contest within the Democratic Party. And I'm not sure that's great for difference in government.
Well, we will have a lot to talk about throughout the evening. We thank you guys for being here. And we're going to see what the voters have to say about it. For now, we're going to send it back to Mark.
Thanks, guys. Now to the race for Assembly District 75. Republican Andrew Hayes is running against former San Diego City Council member Carl DeMaio, who is also a Republican in this race. The 75th Assembly District encompasses part of East County, also portions of inland North County as well. NBC7's Dana Williams is following this race. She joins us now downtown at the GOP headquarters for us this evening. Dana.
Mark, good evening. As you can tell, the excitement in this room is absolutely buzzing. We are here at the U.S. Grant Hotel downtown. This is, like you said, the GOP headquarters for today, the 75th District Assembly race. That is one that's been contentious from the start, and now obviously to finish. Something interesting that I want to show you all and talk about. Andrew Hayes actually earned the endorsement from the San Diego GOP over Carl DeMaio. He's here tonight. You'll get a chance to hear from him in just a moment. DeMaio was invited but hasn't shown up yet. Hayes was born and raised in the East County. He's been president of the Lakeside School District Board for 8 years. This would be his first step up into politics at the state level. It is, of course, a contrast when it comes to experience compared to Carl DeMaio. It's a recognizable name for many San Diegans. He spent years on the San Diego City Council, but he didn't get his party's stamp of support in this race. It's a unique district and also includes about 50 miles on the U.S.-Mexico border. Hayes says he's ready for the challenge, especially as a Republican in an obviously Democratic state.
Listen, I'm running to be one of 18 Republicans out of 80 in the state assembly. And so that means there's 62 members of the majority party there. If I don't try to find areas of common ground, I'm never going to get anything accomplished. That doesn't mean that I should not fight back on things that my district doesn't support, but it also means that I need to find areas of agreement. And there are many, by the way.
Some of those issues that he mentioned, affordability, he said fire insurance, that's also a huge concern for his district that includes a lot of East County, San Diego. He also mentioned the placement of sexually violent predators. A lot of times, even I've been to many of those hearings where they suggest placing them in areas like Hucumba. He says that's something that he would like to garner support on. And I can tell you here in this room tonight, I've only seen a few candidates. I've seen him. I've seen Michael Williams. He's running in the 80th district. But that's everybody that I've seen thus far. Of course, we're waiting for more people to arrive. I also spoke with Kevin Faulkner earlier today. He says he is feeling good. He has a few other events that he went to earlier in this evening, but he plans to come back here within the next hour or so. So hopefully we'll be able to talk with him live for you. But for now, from the U.S. Grand Hotel downtown, I'm Dana Williams.
Thank you, Dana. We'll check back.
All right, now to the race for the 49th Congressional District, which represents coastal San Diego County and parts of Orange County as well.
Republican Matt Gunderson is challenging Democratic incumbent Mike Levin. NBC7's Shelby Bremer has the latest on that race. She's at the San Diego Hilton there in Del Mar. Shelby.
Hi there. So this is certainly one of the most competitive congressional races in our area. Levin flipped the district from longtime Republican control in 2018 and won by just 5 points last time in 2022. We're getting some results in, and it does look like he has about a 20,000 vote lead, about 12 to 13%. But again, a lot of votes counted. What's been really interesting about this race is that it's sort of a bellwether for national trends. You know, you see around the country, the suburbs are the battlegrounds, and we're seeing that here, and we're seeing how those national issues are playing out in our own backyard in a race that's gotten national attention.
So long as this is such a close registration where Democrats only have a couple points registration advantage, I do expect us to be on the national radar.
Congressman Mike Levin seeking a fourth term against Republican challenger Matt Gunderson in a bruising campaign that dominated the airwaves.
You know, it was about exposing the hypocrisy of Mike Levin's voting record and the walk he walks in Washington, D.C. versus the talk he talks about who he is when he comes home.
The 49th district spans northern San Diego County into Orange County. Perennially purple, it was one of the GOP's top targets this cycle. A key issue, abortion, as campaigns nationwide try to sway suburban women.
I'm a pro-choice Republican. I believe abortion should be safe, legal, and rare.
My opponent says he's pro-choice, but I think he means that states should make the choice rather than women.
Some voters in Del Mar told us that's what drew them to their polling place.
I think the most important issue, I mean, personally, women's rights, choice, and to me, that's, as a nurse, there's certain things that can't be ignored.
It's a really important election to make sure that my rights and my body is protected, and for, honestly, all of democracy.
But despite that months-long ad blitz, several voters also told us they weren't too familiar with this congressional race, focused only on the names at the top of the ballot.
Our freedom is paramount. The fate of our democracy and what we stand for as a country is literally up for a vote this election.
But more importantly, no matter who wins, I hope we all come together as a country. It's very important.
So Levin told us earlier today that he expects in-person day of voting to break for Gunderson, but he expects big numbers in those drop-off ballots and those mail-in ballots. As I said before, we're looking at about a 20,000 vote lead, about 13 points, but still a lot of votes to be counted. For now, live from Del Mar, Shelby Bremer, NBC7.
All right. Thank you so much, Shelby.
All right, let's talk more about this with Scott Lewis, voice of San Diego, Phil Moriello, attorney and host of California Underground podcast. Welcome. And also James Cannery, who has worked in San Diego Democratic politics for a long time. Gentlemen, let's continue with this. First of all, Scott, is this a district that is just always going to get national attention because it can go either way?
Yeah, I mean, remember, this is the district Darrell Issa used to represent. And then as it started to get more conservative or more liberal, he said, well, I think I'm done with Congress. And then he moved to a different district that was more safe for Republicans. And so it really went blue, but it wasn't a solid one. It's one of those miserable congressional seats where you got to raise money all the time, work to just save yourself. But it does look like the physics are there for Mike Levin to kind of keep his seat. But Gunderson's probably the best, most organized, well-spoken candidate they've had. He raised a lot of money. The Democrats were forced to put some money in at the end. And it looks like it's going to be another one we'll have to watch for a few days.
Phil, do you think success in this particular district will always require a bit of a moderate, regardless of the party?
Yeah, and I think this is interesting. When I saw Matt Gunderson's ads, he actually came out as a Republican who was pro-choice, which is against sort of the normal Republican narrative. And I think maybe that's just kind of playing to being a Republican in California is you kind of have to moderate. You have to accept that abortion has been decided here in the state, that Roe v. Wade has gone back to the states. So maybe that is sort of the path forward for California Republicans that you have to moderate. But we'll see if it actually ends up in any good results for him tonight and whether that pushes the needle at all.
And James, I'm curious about one thing. I mean, you hear housing coming up a lot. How much power, though, does a member of Congress actually have to affect something like housing, which really is handled on a state and local level?
I think very little. I mean, the only thing Gunderson could handle is like a car dealership. He could sell you a good car. And I think we should trust Mike Levin, who's a trusted politician here in San Diego County, the region, the state, to help us in Washington deal with that.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, and I'm curious, opinions from all three of you, is that immigration and immigration problems has come up a bit in many of these congressional races. Nothing, though, compared to what you hear nationally, especially from Donald Trump. And you hear immigration problems, border problems coming up over and over and over again. Here we are on the border. You hardly hear it mentioned very much. Why?
Well, we have the busiest border crossing in the world. We have a really interesting relationship with it, right? Our entire economy is tied into cross-border commerce, travel. You know, people are used to it. It's not. We've seen the most secure border in this region compared to other parts of the country, and the one that they always point to as the model. Now, there's obviously huge spaces after you get farther east in the infrastructure that's set up there, but we have a more intimate relationship with the border, and you can't just say simple things about it here.
Okay, and Phil?
Yeah, I think because we're so close to the border, there is a risk with politicians to they might alienate certain voters in their district if they start to say anything inflammatory or anything that can be construed as inflammatory about the border, because there are so many people who live in the other side of the border, they have family on the other side of the border, so saying anything could alienate voters in what could be a very close district. So maybe staying out of immigration, even though it is a congressional issue, might be safer for some people like Matt Gunderson.
But I mean, that's fascinating if you really think about it, because James, you have national Democrats who are saying that there are major problems with immigration and we need immigration reform.
Well, the reality is we do. But I think when you talk about where that district is, folks aren't as concerned up there as they would be maybe down here.
Okay. All right. Very well. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We want to get straight to some numbers and show you these results as they come in. In the U.S. Senate seat, Adam Schiff handily beating right now Steve Garvey, 58 to 42% as the votes roll in. Moving on to the mayor's race, we see that Todd Gloria has 56%. Larry Turner has 44%. We've been talking about this. The incumbent, of course, Todd Gloria against Larry Turner, who is an independent. And moving on now to the supervisorial District 3, Tara Lawson-Remer with 57% of the vote to Kevin Faulkner's 43%. And next, we're going to see voters weighing in here on Measure E. Several propositions on the ballot and measures. This one would increase San Diego City's sales tax. It's close right now. 51% saying no, 49% saying yes. We'll get some more analysis from our panel on this a little bit later. But, you know, the big question here is, do voters want to increase prices in the kind of inflation we've had and the cost of living? And that's certainly been a topic we've been discussing. Also want to check in with Measure G. And now this is the sales tax increase for county projects. Once again, a close margin right now, but with first numbers coming in, we see 53% saying no and 47% saying yes.
And this is going to be an interesting one also, right? Because this was basically a citizens initiative to put this on. It has environmental groups, other really pro public transit folks who are behind all of this, but we'll see if it ends up playing. A lot of different individual mayors around San Diego, different members of SANDAG are opposed to this.
So checking in on the mayor of Coronado race, as you may know, the mayor of Coronado, current mayor Richard Bailey, has termed out. All of the candidates to replace him are currently Coronado City Council members. We see John Duncan, that's trending in first place here with 47% of the vote. Casey Tanaka at 41%.
And voters in Encinitas are deciding whether or not to elect Mayor Tony Kranz for a second term or replace him with the current council member, Bruce Ellers. Housing is the central issue in this race. Encinitas has long had a reputation for resisting some state housing requirements. In recent years, Mayor Kranz has ushered the city, though, towards compliance. Ehlers wants to see more control turned back to local government. So far, Bruce Ehlers is ahead of the incumbent, 52% to Kranz's 48%.
And another race in Oceanside, incumbent Mayor Esther Sanchez running for re-election. She is a Democrat who became Oceanside's first Latina and first female mayor back in 2020. Sanchez being challenged by Ryan Keim, a current Oceanside City Council member, also serves as deputy mayor. He is a registered Republican, former Oceanside police officer. Right now, this is a close race, neck and neck, both with 50% as the first returns come in.
Now to Santee, incumbent Mayor John Minto facing challenger Kelly O'Brien, who is just 27 years old. Minto, a former San Diego police detective. O'Brien is a former Santee school district employee who says she is focused on government accountability. 79% overwhelmingly to John Minto right now, to Kelly O'Brien's 21%.
Okay, let's take a look at the race for city attorney right now. As you know, San Diego City Attorney Mara Elliott terming out, to Democrats Heather Ferbert, the current chief deputy in the city attorney's office, and Brian Mainshine, a state assembly member who has a recognizable name here in San Diego, running against each other. Right now, Heather Ferbert in the lead with 56% to Brian Mainshine's 44%.
Interesting so far. I mean, this is far from being a done deal, but Mainshine, who is a longtime politician, has picked up also a lot of endorsements from a lot of bigwigs here in San Diego, but the lesser known with the lead right now. Okay, now to Prop 36, which would strengthen the punishment for certain drugs and theft crimes. We have that yet?
Yeah, do we have those numbers?
We'll try and get that in a second.
All right. Here's the number. Yes, 73%. This has had quite a bit of support, and our NBC7's Calvin Henry has been reporting extensively on Prop 36, those for and against it. Let's go to him now with some reaction to these first numbers. Calvin.
And Mark and Monica, I'd like to stress what you mentioned, because like you said, roughly 70% of people are in support of it right now as the numbers are trickling in. And I would like to say that Prop 36 is meant to repeal many of the measures of Prop 47, which was signed in 2014. And now people who are in support of Prop 36, that it will save businesses in the area, while people who are against it say that it will lead to mass incarceration. And now Prop 36 has support from many San Diego's leaders, including Mayor Gloria and San Diego County District Attorney Summer Stephan. If passed, a third conviction for theft of less than $950, which is now a misdemeanor, would become a felony. Now, some felony sentences would get longer if 3 or more people join in on such things like smash and grabs, or for selling certain drugs like fentanyl or cocaine. And now people who are against it, like I mentioned, say that it will lead to mass incarceration. And people who are in support of it are really saying that it is what is needed right now. Now, we spoke to some leaders, and take a listen to what they had to say about it all.
So we've been fighting big for this, trying to get voters out there to vote. Really important, because people have been coming into small businesses all around San Diego, including our own family business, and stealing small amounts under $950, really with no consequence.
Proposition 36 is really a perverse fraud, and my highest hope is that voters won't be duped by it. Every single Californian deserves to feel and be safe. I don't think there could be any argument against that, right? But what we know is that the biggest deterrent to crime is when people believe that they are going to be caught. And we have a serious problem in this state with law enforcement failing to do its fundamental job and arrest people when crime occurs.
Now, it is important to stress that many big box retailers like Home Depot and Walmart are in support of it and back the measure. And there are state leaders that were against it, like Governor Gavin Newsom. Now, of course, we're following those results as they come in right now, but we're bringing it to you as they come in. Kelvin Henry, NBC7.
We appreciate it, Kelvin. We should point out, too, that strong lead so far for Prop 36. However, we know that there are just 12% of precincts reporting at this point in the evening. It's 8:41. Still a lot of numbers to come in. We'll check back. Thank you.
Meantime, let's go to Joey Saftrick now, who is at the Democratic Watch Party downtown, watching these results come in. Joey.
Right, we are just getting these results, and one of the most comfortable leads for an incumbent is Stephen Whitburn, who just walked into the party, is here with us now. How are you feeling?
I am feeling great. 61% of the vote at this point. I am so appreciative of all the voters in District 3, the urban heart of our city, which includes downtown and the surrounding area. I just really appreciate all of their support.
What about your messaging do you think resonated with voters?
I think that what we're seeing with this win tonight is a lot of support for the work that we've been doing to reduce homelessness, to make the cost of living more affordable, and to improve our neighborhoods. I think that has really resonated. I think we're seeing the results of that.
Do you feel like you cruised to victory, or was this a hard-fought battle?
Well, it was a hard-fought battle. I mean, we worked very hard. I was out knocking on doors today during the day. We were lit dropping at 6 in the morning. We didn't take anything for granted. We wanted to make sure that we were getting our message out. Obviously, we did.
What do you think it tells us that all three incumbents in the city of San Diego races have fairly comfortable leads right now?
Well, we have been working on the most important subjects in the city of San Diego, what people have asked us to work on. They asked us to get to work on homelessness. We got to work on homelessness, and we have reduced the number of people who are living outdoors. We got them into safe sleeping. We've gotten them into shelters and safe parking. I think that that is something that really resonates with people. We're adding housing. We're making housing more affordable. That is something that we've heard people want. The cost of living is a real challenge for a lot of people. And then, of course, doing all the improvements in the neighborhoods, whether it's getting the streets paved, getting the street lights fixed, all those things that people have asked for in their neighborhoods, we're making progress on that. People see the progress on all of those issues, and I think that that has really resonated.
What is the first order of business when you're back in council, assuming the dais looks about the same?
I am really looking forward to getting back to work with my colleagues on the council, to work with the mayor, and continuing to make the progress on these issues. We're not done with them yet. We have made real progress on homelessness, but we've got a lot of work to do. And we've been very straightforward about that. We have gotten a lot of housing built, but you can see the cranes in the air, and we've got a lot more to do. And obviously, while we're making progress on neighborhood improvements, we've got a lot of more work to do there too. So I think what voters see is that we're moving in the right direction. They want us to continue the progress. They want us to continue moving forward. And they want us to continue our work to make San Diego an even better city.
You have been particularly focused on homelessness in your district during your first term. Do you think you'll have the opportunity to pivot and look at housing and development with more emphasis in the second term?
I've actually been focused on all of those. The district that I represent, which is the urban core, District 3, downtown, the surrounding area, it has the most intense number of people who historically have been experiencing homelessness. So that's been a big focus. We have been able to dramatically reduce the number of people who are sleeping outdoors downtown and elsewhere in District 3. We've made real progress on that. But look at the cranes in the air. Downtown and in the other neighborhoods of District 3, we are getting housing built. And a lot of that housing is housing that is affordable. Truly affordable. It's restricted by income. So we're making progress there, and certainly with neighborhood improvements. So all of these, we have to multitask. We are multitasking. We're making progress on a lot of fronts. The voters are asking us to keep up that work.
All right, Councilmember Whitburn, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
And of course, Councilmember Whitburn represents downtown, Little Italy, District 3. That includes North Park, Hillcrest. Like he was talking about, some of the most vibrant residential and tourist neighborhoods in San Diego. A lot of excitement here behind me. You can hear. We're going to pivot now and talk about the mayor's race. Councilmember Whitburn works very closely with Mayor Todd Gloria, including on that controversial camping ban, which they really did champion together. And Mayor Todd Gloria also has a pretty sound, comfortable lead over Larry Turner right now. That being said, last I checked, Larry Turner had secured about 45% of the vote, which is not unsubstantial for someone who was an unrecognizable name here in San Diego just about a year ago. But what this really tells us is that Mayor Todd Gloria, this is a referendum. It would have been had Larry Turner been victorious, of course. He had this very vocal coalition of folks who were very disenchanted with Mayor Gloria. But this was sort of a litmus test to see if people in San Diego were really as disillusioned with the mayor as some of these vocal people led us to believe. And it seems that that is not the case. We'll be here talking to Mayor Gloria as soon as we can, and we'll come back to you with that.
Yeah, Joe, you know what was interesting about this race also for Larry Turner, it was less about pro-Larry Turner and more just anti-Todd Gloria. Thanks for that. We'll check in as we continue.
And we're going to show you some results from this night, election night, and we'll be right back.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us on NBC7 this election night, where the last voters in our county got in line about 45 minutes ago. I'm Mark Mullen.
I'm Monica Dean. Nice to have you with us. And so begins the mad dash to get those tens of thousands of ballots from centers across the county over to the Registrar of Voters office.
NBC7's Alexis Rivas joins us now from Kearney Mesa. Alexis.
Mark, so this is the warehouse side of the Registrar building. This area is going to get a lot of action over the next couple of hours as truck after truck comes in from voting centers from across our county and drops off these boxes full of ballots to go inside and be processed. Of all of those ballots, the ones that were cast in person at voting centers across the county will be counted first. That will then gradually become included as part of those unofficial results we're going to get throughout tonight. The registrar expects those updates to begin around 9:30, so in a little less than an hour, perhaps around 10 o'clock at the latest. For anyone who dropped off a ballot, though, today or sent one through the mail, those are going to take several days or even weeks to count. That's partly because they have to go through this extra step. Poll workers need to match voter signatures on the ballot envelope with their signature on file, though they will be checked in, so voters will know that they made it here. And of course, the registrar will know about how many mail-in ballots that they still have yet to count. County Registrar Cynthia Paz says they expect to get 400 to 500,000 mail-in ballots today.
Everything is going as expected. We plan for every election for a full year prior to that election. So everything's going as we expected to.
Even after all of those ballots are counted, there's still one last final step. Poll workers will have to manually go through about 1% of the total count. That's just a check that this county has to make sure that the machines are tallying the ballots correctly. That process takes 30 days. Only then will these results truly be considered final. Live from Kearney Mesa, I'm Alexis Rivas for NBC7.
Alexis, thank you.
And just within the last 45 minutes, NBC News projects Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff has won California's U.S. Senate race to finish the current term ending in January and to hold the seat for the next full 6-year term. Taking a look here now, Adam Schiff with 61% of the vote. And now on to the mayor's race.
Between incumbent Democrat Todd Gloria and independent Larry Turner. Todd Gloria with a commanding lead, 56%, to Larry Turner, the independent and police officer, 44%.
That's going to do it for us for now. Thanks for joining us.
We'll be back in 1 hour with another local election update.
Welcome back to NBC7's Election Night Special. I'm Monica Dean.
I'm Mark Mullen. Good evening. Election results are flowing in, and we are continuing to keep an eye on everything, including the presidential race here in San Diego and, of course, around the country. Let's take a quick look at where things are right now. Former President Trump leading with 230 electoral votes. Vice President Kamala Harris has 185. NBC News just projected Trump will win North Carolina. Trump has won key states like Texas, Florida, and Indiana. Harris, though, is chipping away at Trump's lead. NBC News projects Harris will win Virginia. She's already won here in California, also New York, and other states, too.
Here at home, here's how San Diego County voted in the presidential race. With 42% of the vote in, 56% voted for Kamala Harris, which is just under 480,000 votes. As for former President Donald Trump, he received 40.9% of the vote so far, or about 345,000 votes. And as those votes come in, both candidates are keeping a close eye out as well. Let's give a live look for you right now to Washington, D.C., where the Harris Campaign Watch Party is underway at Howard University. Do we have that picture? Okay, we apologize. We don't have that live shot right now.
Let's try for Florida, down the coast a bit. Supporters, well, we can't do that. We'll at least say that supporters are gathered at the Palm Beach Convention Center for former President Donald Trump's campaign and J.D. Vance's watch party.
Okay, we know our NBC7's Joe Little has been keeping a close eye on reaction from voters here throughout the county. He's in the South Bay now in Chula Vista. Joe, how's it going out there?
The energy here in Chula Vista has died down considerably. The energy was built up right at 8 o'clock when the last person came running from a plane to get into the line, and now everyone's gone. Camarena Elementary School here in Chula Vista has been busy all day today with people who are finally happy to get to this finish line, but now they are ready for part 2.
Feels great. Feels like a long time coming.
They stand outside the darkened school for their turn.
I had to force him. Yeah.
Some learning civic lessons.
She wanted to come.
Others learning patty cake. Everyone seems happy to see the end of the election season.
In a way, I'm glad that this is over with.
It was not fun.
I would not use the word
I
fun
wouldn't
either.
use the word fun, yeah.
I felt like some people are acting really crazy. It's been kind of overloaded, overwhelming.
Bombardment of different messages, a lot of rhetoric that's not exactly pleasing to hear.
All I've learned is that everybody has their own opinion.
I'm waiting for part 2.
We're rolling into part 2 now. Who will win? Who will lose?
It's definitely going to be rocky. There's going to be a lot of unhappy people. There's going to be a lot of happy people.
I think there's going to be some issues that are going to arise, whether they're true or not.
Well, I hope changes are made, but it's still going to be the same nonsense. I think it will take a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, to settle down the dust. Hopefully everybody accepts loss in a wild manner.
I'm still citing on hopefulness that deep down we're all Americans.
It's definitely going to be rocky.
We're still waiting for the big box of ballots to come out of this voting station here and head out to the registrar of voters for the evening. Coming up at 11 o'clock tonight, we're going to hear from that young woman who just made her flight here to Camarena to vote. She's right over there. We're going to talk to her and we'll share what she has to say this evening at 11 o'clock. Reporting live in Chula Vista, Joe Little, NBC7.
Sounds good, Joe. Thanks much.
Okay, so local voters are weighing in on several potential tax hikes. Measure E would raise the city of San Diego's sales tax from the lowest in the county to among the highest. Let's take a look at the early results here because they're close. San Diego's current sales tax rate, 7.75%. And if Measure E is approved, it would go up to 8.75. Right now, just a little bit of the vote in right here, but 51% say no to 49%. Higher tax is expected to generate a 20% increase for the city's general fund, which pays for things like police and firefighters, parks, libraries, other services. Opponents argue taxes are already too high. Let's take a look now at Measure G. This is the one that's dealing with the county. This would raise the sales tax by ½ cent across San Diego County. And the county estimates the ½ tax hike would raise $350 million each year to help pay for things like road repairs and expansions to bus and rail services. Opponents say it's not necessary because most people don't use public transit here in San Diego. So far, the yes votes have 47% and 53% are voting no so far. It'll be interesting to see. This is pretty close right now. Let's bring in our panel to discuss this, because I think the big consideration right now is everyone has been talking about the cost of living. And are voters going to go for a sales tax increase? Give us your perspective first, Scott.
Well, we talked to voters all day today at the polling stations, and all of them almost talked about high rents, cost of living. I mean, we knew that was a big issue. We talked about it. We've done tons of journalism about it, but it really stood out as their top concern. Measure G is a great example. So in 2016, the last time Donald Trump won the presidency, the Sandag put up a measure to raise the sales tax the same amount. They needed 2/3 vote at that time. They got 58%. So now it's gone from 58% maybe to this below 50 right now. Now, these two measures are the classic examples of this early vote needing to be patient with, because over the next few days, there's going to be more votes. So we got to see where the trend is, because if it starts shortening, that Measure E in the city of San Diego could flip very easily. Measure G, though, that might be that 5-6% point where it's gone too far. So very interesting.
This is kind of a tough ask right now in the climate that we're in. Phil, what is your perspective? Was this too much to ask for voters at a time like this?
Yeah, this is just absolutely the worst time to ask for a hike in sales tax. I mean, you talk about how people are going to the grocery store, everything is going up, their gas is going up, their electricity is going up. And the last thing you want to put in front of voters is, hey, by the way, do you want your sales tax to go up as well? And I think something interesting is that an independent budget analysis showed that the city of San Diego is already $200 million in the red with their budget, and that this proposed sales tax increase would help cover that shortfall, and then the rest might go to infrastructure because it's going into the general fund. So I think voters might be a little skeptical of, where are these taxes going, and should I trust our local government to actually spend it on infrastructure?
And James, something interesting here too. Mayor Todd Gloria, Council President Shani Rivera have kind of hung their hat on this measure passing to be able to accomplish some of these things. What happens? What's plan B if this doesn't pass?
You know, I don't know what plan B is going to be, but I'm going to tell you, if voters don't pass this, we're going to continue to be the little brother to LA and other major cities. The reality is it costs money now. It'll be cheaper now if we invest than 20 years from now. If we don't have the infrastructure, if we don't have the programmatic things that we need at the city, then the cost is just going to rise, continue to rise. And the reality is, big cities, you got to spend money to be a big city. I was in Seattle a couple of years ago. The reality is they have transit. It's good transit. They spend on it. Yes, the taxes feel regressive, but at the same time, this is the opportunity to grow.
But I think that was the big problem with Measure G, is it wasn't even clear what kind of transit improvements it would provide. There's a lot of money set aside for the tunnel to at the Del Mar Bluffs, where there's the problem with the erosion. That's hundreds of millions of dollars. That would just be a down payment on that project. There was a promise to get a trolley line from Otay Mesa up to Kearny Mesa, but that again was just barely a down payment on that, and it would be decades before you saw that realized. There was a good portion for roads and for highways, but it was never clear exactly what you would get out of this measure, and I think it's suffering because of it.
Well, I don't disagree. I mean, I think the reality is Sandag isn't always trusted right now, right? And if they were trusted to be able to do some of the work and get it done, but the reality is we need it, and maybe we just need different leadership or different work.
These aren't the two only sales tax measures. Chula Vista, Encinitas, Santee, Escondido, they all had it. And so it's kind of interesting to see which ones have more trust, right? Because Escondido, it's doing quite well. Encinitas, Chula Vista is doing quite well. Some of these places, Santee, it's not doing as well. The trust in some of these agencies and in Sandag is much different. And it's a perfect experiment, really, to see where trust is and where it's not.
Well, and in the city, or in the county rather, the city of San Diego has some of the lowest sales tax in the county. But if both of these measures pass, this could make our sales tax here in the city of San Diego one of the highest in the state.
Yeah.
And so what do we do to make some of these improvements without this supplemental income?
Nothing.
Stuff doesn't get done.
No, I don't think that they're ever going to make up the difference without some kind of wholesale, change of how the city operates. The vast majority of the money goes to public safety and to, police and fire. And that's not going to change. If anything, there's pressure to put more money into those things. They're never going to be able to bootstrap their way into making the big investments needed. Now, that said, They are going to start charging for trash collection at single family homes. They delayed the exact implementation of that till after this election. So we'll see. There's going to be more infusion of funds into the city of San Diego, but they had no plan to cover this deficit without this tax passing. So they are going to watch the counts on this one very closely.
But and I think to James' point, there is a plan B. A plan B is you got to look at your finances as a city and go, well, what are we doing here and how are we managing it? And I think to citizens, they go, well, I have to figure out what I'm doing to put food on the table every month. And the city's first and only solution is, well, let's just get more sales tax or get more tax revenue in. That's what I think plan B has to be. Now, when Todd Gloria gets reelected, which it looks like he's going to do, he might have to sit down and figure this out with the city council. How are we going to do this? And actually make those investments and improve the city without this sales tax.
And perhaps that would increase trust among the constituents.
Correct.
Okay, well, more to come on that as the numbers roll in. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll be checking in with you throughout the evening. Mark, let's send it back over to you.
And San Diego not looking to be the only city to increase its sales tax. Scott Lewis alluded to this just a moment ago. In fact, we counted 12 other tax measures on ballots around the county. So let's take a look at some of these numbers right now, beginning with Encinitas. Proposed 1 cent sales tax increase to fund public infrastructure and city services. Right now, no 53%, yes 47%. And we, from our reporting, have been speaking with Encinitas officials, have been telling us they had almost $200 worth of infrastructure projects that they were hoping to get this thing passed to pay for that, but at least so far not looking good. Voters in Escondido are also deciding on a 1 cent sales tax increase there to pay for essential services like first responders and road projects. Right now, yes is leading 58% to 42%. Lemon Grove also has a 1 cent sales tax increase on the ballot. 70% say yes to 30% no. It's the widest margin of any of these sales tax measures we've seen so far. And the city of San Marcos is also asking voters to approve a 1 cent sales tax hike. Measure Q there, 59% yes to 41% no.
And I think that lends itself to exactly what Scott Lewis was mentioning about the trust in some of these different cities throughout San Diego County. And we're seeing a much closer margin in the vote here in the city of San Diego.
Right. And the converse is there in Santee, where 53% of the voters so far for Measure S there, half cent sales tax, are saying no to 47% yes.
All right, let's move on now to the race for city attorney. This position obviously gives legal advice to city staff, represents the city in court, and prosecutes misdemeanors. The current office has publicly disagreed with the mayor and city council in certain controversial decisions over the last few years.
Right, which is sometimes her job. Current Democrat State Assembly member Brian Mainshine is running against the current Deputy City Attorney Heather Furbert, also a Democrat. Let's go to Jackie Gray at the Westin, where the Democratic headquarters are tonight. Jackie.
Jackie, can you hear us?
Good evening. We are at the Westin. Things did pick up, but they just moved up. We're in the lobby, but they've moved to the Democratic headquarters above us. And right now, the current numbers are at 56% for Heather Furbert, 43% for Brian Mainshine, the current state assembly member. Are you guys able to hear us? The incumbent, Mara Elliott, who is the current city attorney, she's thrown her support behind the deputy city attorney, Heather Furbert, which would make sense as they've worked together under this administration. Now, both she and Mainshine have debated each other's qualifications for the job, Mainshine pointing out her lack of experience in an elected office. And Furbert's claims Mainshine hasn't actually been a practicing lawyer in decades, as he was at one point in San Diego City Council and then a state assembly member for quite some time now. Tonight, Furbert is watching election results come in at the local in downtown San Diego, a pub, along with her boss, Mara Elliott, and we spoke to both of them.
I think that he is very ill-informed about what the office does. He's classified her job as a little job, and she handles some of the most pressing issues for the city of San Diego.
So yeah, I didn't really want to go on the attack, but I also wanted to make sure that my reputation, my record was clear to the voters because it's a really important race. And I think it comes down to as simply as qualifications. What do the voters want? They want a career politician. They want a practicing lawyer.
Apologies for the delay there, a little bit technical difficulties. We are live kind of in the epicenter of everything right now. As for Mainshine, the state assembly member, he has not responded to our calls or emails today and has not so far shown up to the Democratic headquarter party to see, you know, as we look at the election results coming in, which again, Heather Ferbert, 56%, Brian Mainshine, 43.9%. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right. Thank you, Jackie. We'll check back with you.
Well, one of the more contentious local races this election has been for the District 3 seat on the County Board of Supervisors.
Former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer is running against incumbent Supervisor Tara Lawson-Remer to represent the county's coastal communities. NBC7's Dana Williams has been following the race. She's live for us downtown at the GOP headquarters. Dana.
Hi, good evening. This is a busy room. I just first kind of want to show you there are more than 100 people who are here eagerly awaiting that first round of results to come in. You said it. The third district seat in the San Diego County Supervisors has been a hard-fought battle. This is a first-hand look at the results so far. Tara Lawson-Remer is leading with 56% of the vote. Kevin Faulconer is trailing behind. Kevin Faulconer is obviously a household name in San Diego. He was the mayor of the city of San Diego for 2 terms. He also served on the San Diego City Council. He says that while he took a break from politics, he is back and he couldn't help but jump in because he says he just sees so many things that are taking a downhill turn here in the county. You're gonna hear from him in just a second. We actually got a chance to speak with him earlier when he came through here. It was a couple hours ago. You know, I was looking around for him, and with all these people in this room, he's pretty easy to spot because of his height, but I'm not seeing him yet. There's only one candidate who I'm seeing right now. He's running for the 80th district. That's Mike Williams. But this Supervisor District 3 seat against incumbent Tara Lawson-Remer, I also spoke with her earlier today while she was campaigning at the UC San Diego campus. She was talking to students as they were getting in their final votes, and she says the work that she started during her time on the County Board of Supervisors isn't done. She talked a lot about homelessness. It's another issue that former Mayor Kevin Faulconer also spent time talking about. Both of them say that they are the right candidate for this role, but obviously Kevin Faulconer has that Tara Lawson-Remer has that early lead, but this is what Kevin Faulconer had to say a couple hours ago about why he's the best candidate.
Anytime you have the opportunity to interact with, so many people across the county, I love it. And why I decided to jump back into politics is because we live in a great place and it's worth fighting for. And to see things that are going in the wrong direction, and people know it, whether you're a Democrat, Independent, or Republican, people want to change in the county. And that's exactly what I'm going to offer.
This is one of 3 San Diego County Supervisor seats that are on the ballot this year. District 1, District 2, and District 3. District 1, that candidate is Alejandro Galicia. He's running against incumbent in Chair Nora Vargas. District 2, that's incumbent Joel Anderson. Both of those incumbents are sitting pretty squarely right now with those early results. And of course, lastly, again, Lawson-Remer, the incumbent in District 3, has the current lead. But again, this is all too early to tell, and I will be staying here for the remainder of the night, keeping an eye out for former Mayor Faulconer if he decides to show up. But that's the latest that we have for you now, live from the U.S. Grant downtown, the headquarters for the San Diego GOP. I'm Dana Williams, NBC7.
Which we have seen get busier and busier and busier as the night has gone on. All right, Dana, thanks very much. We'll check back.
San Diego City Council President is up for re-election. Sean Elo Rivera represents District 9, which includes Normal Heights, City Heights, the College area, and Mount Hope. Elo Rivera's challenger is Terry Hoskins, a retired police community relations officer. Elo Rivera says the council has made progress under his leadership. Hoskins argues the city needs fresh eyes on the council and a new approach to handling homelessness.
You need to have a very vibrant navigation center that does a triage.
Of course, this city is not perfect and there's a lot more to do, but I think we are making progress.
Okay, so let's take a look at what's happening right now. Sean Elo Rivera with 58% of the vote to Terry Hoskins 42% with early results.
In San Diego's 3rd City Council District, Council member Stephen Whitburn is running for re-election against political newcomer Colleen Cusack. The district includes North Park and South Park, Hillcrest, and Little Italy. Both candidates agree the race comes down to one issue: homelessness. Whitburn champions San Diego's ban on homeless encampments, and he defends how it has worked so far, with the caveat that the city badly needs more shelter beds. Cusack is a homelessness advocate and attorney. She is a vocal opponent of the encampment ban or any criminalization of homelessness. Latest results showing Stephen Whitburn with 61% of the vote to Cusack's 39%.
So right now, truckloads full of ballots are beginning to arrive one after another to the Registrar of Voters office in Kearney Mesa.
They're starting to make their way from their individual voting centers right after the polls closed at 8 o'clock. Alexis Rivas is there watching them come in to be counted. Alexis.
You might be able to hear some workers behind me cheering and wooing as truck after truck starts pulling in. We've seen about 4 shipments. This worker coming in here with this box is just finishing up a truck that just unloaded. I see one pulling up right behind her, and they're going to head all the way over here to where we have a couple of workers sorting through that mail. So they're going to check in every single ballot that comes in. That way they know how many they're going to have to count overall. The ones they are counting tonight, again, are the ones that were voted on in person inside one of the voting centers. And that's going to be the primary ballots they're going to want to get from those trucks tonight. So a very electric atmosphere. People are excited. You can hear them talking about like, oh, we got a big one coming in. They're excited to get these. You see these gray bags here. That's where they're taking those ballots out to figure out which ones are going to be those mail-in ones, which ones are the ones that people filled in person, so that they know which ones can go through the process quicker and which one have to be verified. Because of course, if you mailed in your ballot or dropped that off today, you're going to have to make sure that that signature on the outside is matching the one that you had when you registered to vote. That is the step that really kind of delays that process about 7 days at least, if not maybe a couple of weeks. Here's another bag coming off. This is the truck I said was right behind the one that pulled in right when we started talking to you guys. So people are smiling. They're excited. This is kind of, I guess, when the fun begins here at the Registrar of Voters on election night. So just the beginning of, I think, what's going to be quite a long night and probably a long couple of weeks for the workers here, but it seems like it's work that they're very happy to do. So definitely an electric environment here at the Registrar of Voters.
All right, Alexis.
Yeah, interesting to see the process in progress.
Indeed.
Thank you.
I'd love the behind the scenes look.
Mhm.
Okay, so by the way, there are 3 people running for mayor of Coronado. Current Mayor Richard Bailey is termed out. All of the candidates to replace him are current Coronado City Council members John Duncan, Casey Tanaka, and Mike Donovan. Early results showing the leaders look like this. John Duncan with 47% to Tanaka's 41%.
Voters in Encinitas deciding whether to elect Mayor Tony Kranz for a second term or replace him with current council member Bruce Ehlers. Housing is the central issue here in this race. Encinitas has long had a reputation for resisting state housing requirements, and in recent years, Mayor Kranz has ushered the city towards compliance there. Ehlers wants to see more control turned back to local government. As you can see right now, it's a pretty close race. Bruce Ehlers with 52% and Tony Kranz, the incumbent, with 48%.
In Oceanside, incumbent Mayor Esther Sanchez is running for re-election. She's a Democrat who became Oceanside's first Latina and first female mayor in 2020. Sanchez is being challenged by Ryan Kime, a current Oceanside council member, and also serves as deputy mayor. So, those two with offices right next to each other. He is a registered Republican, former Oceanside police officer, basically too close to call right now, 50% for each. In a Santee, incumbent Mayor John Minto is facing challenger Kelly O'Brien, who's just 27. Minto is a former San Diego detective from the police squad. O'Brien is a former Santee School District employee who says she is focused on government accountability. Right now, John Minto with a commanding lead, 79% to O'Brien's 21%.
Let's take a look at the 51st Congressional District, which covers areas like Claremont, Mission Valley, Scripps Ranch, and La Mesa.
El Cajon Mayor Bill Wells is challenging incumbent Sarah Jacobs, and NBC7's Shondell Meniz has the latest results for us. Shondell.
Hey, Mark, yes, this race has been called. It seems that Sarah Jacobs, the incumbent, will keep her seat. She's got 60% of the vote, just about. Bill Wells is 40%. I'm just outside where you saw Dana just a couple minutes ago at the U.S. Grant Hotel. Very, very, very bustling out here as well. But let's talk about the candidates, because it's been exactly 4 weeks since their super, super fiery last debate at Temple Emmanuel Synagogue here. And they clutched on issues like the border and homelessness. Bill Wells argued that the main driving cause of homelessness is drug and alcohol addictions, right? Jacobs disagrees and says many studies, including a recent one by the University of California, has shown that the number one reason people become homeless is a lack of income. She says people are often blindsided with expenses. Maybe they lost a job or their rent went up and now they can't afford it. Bill says a more important issue than Jacobs' priorities is the border crisis.
She said that every single person that comes across that border has been well vetted. That's just an absolute lie.
It's absolutely untrue that we have an open border or that I would support that. I have worked very hard to make sure we have the resources we need so that we can have an orderly and humane process at our borders.
Now that this race has been called, we will be looking to speak with Bill Wells and Sarah Jacobs to get their thoughts. Bill Wells should be coming here shortly. Sarah Jacobs probably around 10:30 or so over at the West End. Over there. I'll send it back to you too.
All right, Shondell Maniz, thank you.
We want to get back to one of the more contentious local races and that has been for the 3rd district seat on the County Board of Supervisors. It represents the county's coastline. Tara Lawson-Remer is up for re-election. Former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer is challenging her for the seat, and both agree that homelessness is the biggest issue facing this district. Right now, taking a look at the early results, a commanding lead by Tara Lawson-Remer, the incumbent, 57% to Kevin Faulconer's 43%.
Scott Lewis from the Voice of San Diego. For people who do not live in this district, please remind all of us why this is still an important race to watch.
Well, this was the biggest race almost in California. There was so much money coming in because there was a chance that if Kevin Faulconer had won, he could flip control of the Board of Supervisors. There's a 3-2 Democratic majority right now. That would have switched it. But he performed so far horribly in this initial count. She's up significantly, I think, beyond what any future counts could change, which means like the millions of dollars. And there was far more money invested in this race than I have ever seen in a county supervisor race, probably $4, maybe $5 million, the vast majority in support of Kevin Faulconer, in particular because of his policies around building housing, allowing the housing to be built in some areas, and around his approach to unions and other things. And the voters have rejected that. And in part, the money that was spent on behalf of Tara Lawson-Remer went to tying Kevin Faulconer to Trump. Republicans across the country are probably really excited about the national race so far, but locally, any ties to Trump among political candidates are just being exploited effectively up and down by Democrats. And this is yet another example, I think. She used whatever money she had to attack, and independents had to attack Kevin Faulconer to really tie him to Trump, and that remains an anchor around local Republicans. And if Donald Trump does win for another 4 years, that they're going to locally, Republicans are going to be in the wilderness trying to figure out how they can appeal to an electorate that has a lot of antipathy, at least here, to former President Trump.
You know, Scott, homelessness was a big issue in this race. And I know your reporter, Lisa Halverstad, did a fact check piece because there was a lot of he said, she said when it comes to this contentious race here between Faulconer and Tara Lawson-Remer. Why was this particularly so difficult to fact check?
I think that there's a lot of people touting the progress that has been made on the issue. And the problem with that is there has been progress. They have done things. The problem is that the problem just gets worse. The crisis is just getting worse. And it's just so awful for everybody to see the suffering, the filth all around the city. And that it doesn't feel like the incumbents have matched the moment with the urgency. And I think that all of the challengers in San Diego sort of said, like, this needs to be addressed and with that same urgency. That we perceive the problem. Up and down, the polls show that that's what the people were most concerned about, the cost of living and homelessness. Now, again, it wasn't able to, what they weren't able to show was that they would be able to do a better job. Neither Kevin Faulconer in the county supervisor race, nor it appears Larry Turner in the mayor's race were able to convince people that while they were disappointed with the crisis and the progress on the crisis so far, that they would be able to go and flip things around.
All right. Scott, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Voters in Del Mar are deciding whether short-term rental units will be taxed under the city's hotel tax.
So here's kind of the backstory on all of this. Right now, the 13% transient occupancy tax does not apply to short-term rentals like Airbnbs, which caused the city in turn, and they're fully aware of this, to lose thousands of dollars in revenue each year. So the Del Mar City Council put forward a ballot measure, this one, to update the wording of the transient tax. So basically, it would also apply to these types of rentals. So far, 73% saying yes to the Del Mar short-term rental tax, to 27% no.
Okay, let's take a quick look at the race right now for the California Senate seat. It's 60% for Adam Schiff, Steve Garvey at 40%, and we understand that Steve Garvey's at the podium right now. Let's listen in.
Always said it so eloquently that, and what did you say, honey? Yeah, and that they would have dignity in their hearts. And that's what we can do as people to help these homeless. So going forward, I think that we've looked at a government that's turned a blind eye to the catastrophes that are happening. But when we announced on October 10th, as you know, 3 days before that, the Israeli war broke out. And people were confused as to why and how that could happen. And as we listened to the demonstrations at college campuses around the country, and we heard that the Israelis were vilified by what people said was a genocide against Hamas, and you and I know differently. And in that first debate, when I was asked how I stand with Israel, I said, I stand with Israel yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I will stand by them. For all their needs, but I could never tell them they couldn't protect their sovereignty. In our campaign, and Ryan and I went to Israel for a week, and we listened to the IDF generals and the advisors. We went to an Iron Dome facility. But the first thing we did, we went to the kibbutz that at 6:30 on October 7th was overrun by Hamas. These 900 people, many of them were killed. And the brutality of it, that was the true genocide Hamas inflicted on Israel. We went to the Nova Music Festival, 10 miles away, where 3,500 young men and women from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., just like Coachella, enjoyed music, the festival of dancing. And as they were leaving at 6:30, as they were leaving this festival, driving out, they ran into 13.
Okay, Steve
Hamas.
Garvey announcing essentially that probably no big surprise that he's not doing terribly well in this race. This is what the numbers look like right now. Adam Schiff to 60% to 40%. Steve Garvey. To our experts, Phil Moriello, what was interesting about this race was we've seen a lot of strategies sometimes, but this was Adam Schiff's campaign basically during the primary funding that of Steve Garvey because he was considered to be a more favorable opponent for this very reason. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising that Adam Schiff did all of his heavy lifting regarding his election in the primary to keep Katie Porter out and to get Steve Garvey in. Because once he got Steve Garvey in, I mean, we're a long, long way away from ever probably seeing a Republican senator come out of California. So he knew that once he got Steve Garvey in there, basically he could start measuring the drapes in the Senate office in Washington, D.C. So common strategy, and it worked out for him in the end.
Yeah. James, do you have any thoughts on this race as it appears Schiff has won?
I mean, I think this is a telltale sign that we need to quit having random people with name ID, allegedly, just run for office. I mean, I think the reality is folks want a trusted leader leading them. And the reality is some old baseball player isn't going to cut it.
Yeah, but this is also the state where we had Arnold Schwarzenegger as well, who got elected.
But at least, you know, I mean, true, Ronald Reagan, you know, but I mean, the reality is at least they moved policy. They had ideas. I mean, we're now in the reality TV phase. Trump has created the true reality TV phase where every politician or wannabe politician who had sought power in some form or fashion, actor, sports star, whoever, thinks that they can run, and they can't because people are smarter than that. They know that they're not the opportunity. Schwarzenegger, that was his opportunity. You know, it worked at that moment, and it wasn't horrible for the state. in Reagan as well. I mean, it was in some cases with Reagan.
But I think it's also something that if you're going to be a Republican running for a seat like Senate here in California, you can't be Steve Garvey and just give up after the primary. You have the opportunity, you have the platform, you have the money behind you. At least try and make some waves, right? Like try and propose some policy. I feel like Steve Garvey kind of quit as soon as he won the primary and just kind of resigned himself to losing, which is kind of funny for a professional baseball player to kind of resign himself to losing before the game even started. But
yeah, but we heard him there. I mean, he sounds like he should have, he should just be in the retirement home, hanging out, like, playing pinochle with somebody, not necessarily running, a big district for our country.
Love it. He's a Republican and a Democrat.
That's right. We appreciate your perspectives.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Exactly. Let's check in with our NBC7's Joey Safchik. She's at the Democrat Party watch party happening downtown. Lots of hustle and bustle down there with an update on some of our local races, Joey.
We have an update on several of our local races. We're going to get to our citywide races in just a minute, but as you can see, Tara Lawson-Remer just arrived. She is the incumbent supervisor for the County Board of Supervisors, District 3. She is running against Kevin Faulkner, of course, the former mayor of the city of San Diego. This was one of the races we were watching the most closely. You have two now political veterans in San Diego, two very recognizable names representing different parties. This district is the coast, of course, from Carlsbad all the way down to Coronado. And this was really one of the races we were the most tuned into. So we're waiting here for Tara Lawson-Remer to speak in just a moment. Spirits are very high. Oh, right on cue. We're going to toss to Tara Lawson-Remer right now.
Say I'm so grateful for all the people who are here tonight who've done so much work over the last many months and really many years to continue trying to move our county in the right direction. I am so grateful for all of you. So thank you. Obviously, we know that this race matters, and what happens tonight is going to have a huge impact on the future of San Diego County. I think we have run an extraordinary race. We have had an amazing ground game. We've had more than 3,000 people be part of our volunteer corps out there knocking on doors and talking to voters and phone banking and texting their friends. We've knocked on more than 35,000 doors. Thank you. But more than anything, we've just been out in the community talking to people about what's important to them and making sure that we can show up for the next 4 years to keep fighting on the issues that matter, issues like homelessness and the cost of housing, and protecting our beaches and our coastlines, and continue to make real progress for working families here in San Diego County. So I know I feel very good about our first results, but I think the race is still too close to call tonight. We're going to continue seeing how the results come in over the next couple hours and tomorrow morning. Obviously the first returns are promising, but we're going to see what happens in the next 12 to 24 hours. And I just want to say I'm so grateful for all of you for being here, for showing up, and for doing all the hard work to get us to where we are today. So thank you, guys.
Okay, we're back here. We just heard from Tara Lawson-Remer, the incumbent supervisor for District 3. Again, that's the coast from Carlsbad down to Coronado. And again, this was one of the races that we were really honed in on watching this election cycle. Now, Tara Lawson-Remer did not just claim victory. She said it's still too close to call, and the first returns are promising, but she said they're going to wait and see as the results continue to come in overnight. But she was clearly enthusiastic. The crowd here is in very high spirits. There is a triumphant vibe in the air, if you will. She did point out some of the big issues in this race that we covered and that really were the core of what this campaign cycle was about. And that, of course, it will come as no surprise, is homelessness, the cost of housing. And in that district, there is the Tijuana sewage crisis that has garnered a lot of attention and that Lawson-Remer has worked hard to address during her tenure on the Board of Supervisors. But something else I want to point out about this race is I've heard it described as the end of this story arc. We were really looking to see if a Republican in San Diego County could be victorious somewhere that's not East County, that's not one of the more rural districts. And if the results continue to trend in this direction, the answer to that may be a resounding no, that San Diego has really been trending blue over the past several years and is continuing to move in that direction, especially on these issues of homelessness and housing. So that is Board of Supervisors District 3. That's countywide. We're pivoting now. We're going to talk about the city of San Diego. We're obviously keeping close watch on the mayor's race here. Todd Gloria has a very comfortable, sound lead ahead of Larry Turner right now. And what we were in the city of San Diego, we had 3 incumbents running, and right now, all of those incumbents have maintained a fairly strong lead over their opponents. And those opponents, despite representing the entire political spectrum, tried to form this coalition that was anti-Gloria. They had this abundant anti-Gloria messaging, but we were waiting to see if that would be enough, especially when it comes to Larry Turner, if he was able to convince voters that he was the right choice, despite his lack of experience, not just because he's not Todd Gloria. And if, again, the results continue to go this way, it seems like voters rejected that. Okay, so we've got the mayor. Now we're moving on to the city attorney. You had Ryan Mainshine and Heather Ferbert. The incumbent city attorney, Mara Elliott, is terming out. Heather Ferbert works under her as one of her chief deputies. Mara Elliott gave her endorsement. You have 2 Democrats in this race, though, and Mayor Gloria had given Brian Mainshine, who represents San Diego in the State House, his endorsement. So this was a race we were watching, and right now it seems like Heather Ferbert is in the lead there. We are watching 2 council races as well, also incumbents in the lead in those races. We'll come back to you with more. We're still waiting to hear, of course, from Mayor Todd Gloria. I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Joey Safchik.
Well done, Joey Safchik. Her pulse on the finger of San Diego politics. Now to the race for the 49th Congressional District, which represents coastal San Diego County and also north into parts of Orange County.
Republican Matt Gunderson is challenging Democratic incumbent Mike Levin. NBC7's Shelby Bremer has the latest on that race for us. She's at the San Diego Hilton in Del Mar. Shelby.
So this race was always going to be competitive, all the way back in March of 2023. So just a little bit after Levin was sworn in for his 3rd term, the national GOP announced that they would target this. This was one of just a few dozen of their prime pickup opportunities. To give you a little bit more of a sense of how competitive it is, Governor Newsom actually only won this district in 2022 by 0.8%. So this was always going to be a pretty tight race. We have a little bit of an update on where things stand now. It looks like Levin is leading 54 to 45, about 9 points. It looks like it's about 20,000 votes that he's up over Gunderson. Still a lot of votes to be counted. But I did ask both of them earlier today, if you win, what's your first priority on the agenda for day 1? I do think their answers were pretty revealing, so take a listen.
Let's accept the fact that, when you win, you are just one of 435 members of Congress, and you're not going to go to Washington, D.C. and burn the place down. But I think you can go to Washington, D.C. with an agenda that, number one, addresses issues that really, really are important to the 49th district.
Well, the first thing on the agenda, I hope, is to vote for Hakeem Jeffries to be Speaker of the House. I think it's critically important that he be the Speaker and not Mike Johnson, who has demonstrated to, time and again to us to really be an extremist in so many ways.
Second, the reason I think it's really interesting is because it's pretty revealing as to how they're both just sort of at the mercy of their national parties, right? We're not a swing state, but this could be considered, it has the potential to be a swing district, again, so close. And so we've really seen the conversations that are happening nationally playing out on a microcosm in our own backyard, conversations on abortion, of course, the economy and immigration. Both candidates have talked about what they want to do policy-wise. Levin talks about, for example, wanting to codify Roe versus Wade. On Gunderson's list, he has brought up stricter immigration restrictions. But here they both sort of acknowledge that they're just one part of a much larger system. Now, we've seen quite a few people here at Levin's watch party watching the results nationally closely, cheering when states are called for Vice President Harris. the mood here is still pretty celebratory as Levin is up still about 9 points. So for now, from Del Mar, Shelby Bremer, NBC7.
All right, Shelby, thank you so much.
Okay, let's swing it out now to NBC7's Dana Williams.
She is at the GOP headquarters downtown. Dana, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What's going on there?
You know what? It is only getting louder and more crowded as the evening goes on. Like you said, we're here at the GOP headquarters at the U.S. Grant downtown, and I actually am joined by Senate Minority Leader, Senator Brian Jones. You just told me that this is a really unique watch party, this specific GOP watch party, not only here but statewide. Why is that?
Well, this is a long-time tradition here in San Diego, beginning way back many years when the county registrar used to do the bipartisan election central over in Golden Hall, and when the registrar stopped doing that, Republicans kept it up here at the U.S. Grant, and we're glad to have everybody come out and join us. We welcome everybody, Democrat voters, non-party voters, no voters. Just come on out and have a good time with us as we watch the results come in.
And you obviously have decades of experience in politics in San Diego at the local level, city council, representing them on the assembly in the 77th and 71st. What are some of the races that you're watching this ballot?
Well, as minority leader, I'm responsible for getting Republican senators elected to Sacramento. So we've got two key races, one in northern LA County, one in Riverside and San Bernardino, both Latino women. One is the first Republican Latina elected to the Senate, and the other one will be the second. And so we're very excited about the turnout of the votes there. One of them's in a very Democratic registration seat, and she's winning. And one's in a very evenly split seat, and she's winning. And we're hoping to expand our numbers in Sacramento and kind of bring some balance back to the legislature in Sacramento.
Well said. Senator Brian Jones, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Have a good evening. Thanks for being here. So you heard it. There is a lot of hope for Republican candidates throughout San Diego, not only in San Diego, but statewide and on the national level. There are so many Republicans who are on this ballot, and with those early results, it may seem as though a lot of the Republicans, especially those running against incumbent Democrats, the majority of the congressional seats that are up for grab, the 49th through the 52nd district, those are all being led by the incumbent Democrats who already have those seats. You just heard him. He was in the state assembly. The 75th assembly seat is the one that's up for grabs based off of, between two Republicans, Carl DeMaio and Andrew Hayes. Andrew Hayes, interestingly enough, got the endorsement of the San Diego GOP, but based off those early results, he is trailing behind. And so it's really been interesting to be here tonight. There's a lot of hope still, despite those local races, those early results being maybe not so much in their favor. But the people who are here, they're really focusing on the national race. And so there's a lot of energy here. And that's all I have for now. In terms of, one more thing. In terms of candidates, that's the one interesting thing. There are not too many candidates here. I spoke with Kevin Faulkner earlier. I've only seen one other candidate who's been here since the early results came out, and that's Michael Williams running for the 80th district in the state assembly. But that's it. And so we're waiting to see if anybody else comes. The podium has only heard from the chairman of the San Diego GOP. But where are they? We hear Carl DeMaio is at a private event in Escondido. We may get him a little bit later. But again, that is what I have for now.
You know, Dana, we've been talking throughout the night with Voice of San Diego's chief editor, Scott Lewis. And one of the things he pointed out is about the unification of the Republican Party here in San Diego, given some of these races where we've seen the incumbent Democrats challenged by some Republican candidates and have just not been able to overcome those incumbents, at least according to the early returns. I'd be curious if you had a chance to talk again with Senator Brian Jones there or others, if they have any thoughts on what San Diego could do to unify the Republican Party, especially if it looks like we're going to have President Trump is reelected.
Yeah, Monica, it's a really interesting question. And I actually think that a way to describe that, kind of an example, is the endorsement in the 75th Assembly seat race. That's Andrew Hayes being endorsed by the Republican Party. Like I mentioned, that race is two Republicans against each other. One, a familiar face and name, Carl DeMaio, who was on San Diego City Council for years and years. But that endorsement from the San Diego GOP is going to and went to Andrew Hayes. He is somebody with really very little political experience. He's been on the Lakeside School Board as the president for 8 years. This would be his first step into local politics and rather statewide politics. But the chairman of the San Diego GOP said that he believes Andrew Hayes, because of his character, and Hayes has said this himself, he will work across the aisle. He is rather more of a moderate Republican, you would say, because as they work toward the future as a party, especially in a Democratic state, they want somebody who is going to be able to be balanced, to get stuff done. And so it's been really interesting, especially in that race, to see the way that they chose to endorse that candidate rather than the other. And so it really does sound like we've heard them say, new majority a lot tonight. And so you can really tell that they're starting to support the candidates who maybe appeal to a wider audience.
All right, Dana, thank you so much.
All right, let's take a look at some of the statewide propositions. Prop 36 would strengthen the punishment for certain crimes, including repeat drug offenses, selling fentanyl, and retail theft. Basically, it's intended to address the increase in shoplifting and smash and grab robberies here in California, which we have seen in the last several years. San Diego District Attorney Summer Stephan has been fully behind the changes. This has gotten a ton of press around the country. I mean, the people who really wanted to change have pointed out very often that you can have bad guys who can basically go in and steal $950 or less worth of merchandise multiple times and still essentially just get a citation. But a lot of stakeholders, including Governor Newsom, had come out and said this will cost an extraordinarily large amount of money. It would disproportionately affect people of color. Nevertheless, this change is getting a lot of support so far, 71% overwhelmingly to 29% no.
Let's take a look at Proposition 32, which would raise the California minimum wage by $2 over the next 2 years to $18 an hour. It would give California the highest minimum wage in the nation. So far, the results are close as we see these early returns, 52% voting no, 48% voting yes.
Proposition 6 would ban involuntary labor in California prisons. Supporters are looking to close a loophole in the state constitution which bans slavery except as punishment for a crime. Right now, prisoners can be disciplined if they refuse to work the job they are assigned, which typically pays less than $1 an hour. If Prop 6 passes, there would still be jobs in prison, but inmates would get to choose whether they work or not. Right now, results show that Prop 6 is 53% no. The votes coming in so far to 47% yes.
Prop 3, let's take a look at that, would enshrine the right to same-sex marriage in the California Constitution. Same-sex marriage has been legal in California for more than a decade. You may recall back in 2008, California voters approved a measure defining marriage as between a man and a woman in the state constitution. This proposition would reverse that and codify and protect the right to same-sex marriage. Taking a look at the early results so far, 63% voting yes, 37% voting no.
Now to Prop 5, which aims to make it easier for cities and counties to raise funds for affordable housing and infrastructure. If Prop 5 passes, local bonds backed by property taxes would need only 55% of the vote to be approved. Right now, bonds have a much higher threshold, a 2/3 vote. So supporters say Prop 5 would give communities the tools to address the challenges in their region, but critics argue that the move could increase bond debt, leading to higher property taxes. No is getting the lead so far with 55% to 45% yes.
Okay, let's take a look at San Diego's mayoral race, where incumbent Mayor Todd Gloria has 56% of the vote to challenger Larry Turner, the independent, with 44%.
Now to the County Board of Supervisors. This is District 3, 57% for incumbent Lawson-Remer against Kevin Faulconer, the former mayor of San Diego's 43%.
Local voters also weighing in on several potential tax hikes. Measure E would raise the city of San Diego's sales tax from the lowest in the county to among the highest. Early results right now show this is quite a close race at 51% voting no to 49% voting yes. San Diego's current sales tax rate is 7.75%. And if this measure is approved, it would go up a full percentage point to 8.75%. Higher tax is expected to generate a 20% increase for the city's general fund, which pays for things like police and firefighters, parks, libraries, and other services. Opponents argue taxes and the cost of living already too high.
So there is also Measure G. This one would raise sales tax by 0.5 cent across San Diego County. This was not put forward by politicians, but actually by citizens who basically got it on the ballot by signing a bunch of petitions. San Diego County estimates the 0.5 cent hike would raise $350 million each year to pay for road repairs and expansion to bus and rail services. Opponents say this is not necessary because most people do not use public transit in San Diego. We saw the votes right now. Can we put that back on the screen just a second ago? Yeah? Nope. 3% say no, 47% say yes.
We're going to show you some of the other election results here in a minute. We will be back right after this.
Thank you for joining NBC7 this election night. I'm Mark Mullen.
I'm Monica Dean. We're glad you're with us. We are bringing you live local election updates every hour. The polls are closed here in San Diego, and we have some results coming in for one of the biggest races we're watching tonight.
NBC7's Joey Safdie joins us now downtown with the latest on the San Diego mayor's race. Joey.
Yeah, good evening. Mayor Todd Gloria is leading in this race right now. His challenger, Larry Turner, is trailing by some 10 points, 11 points actually, based on this first batch of unofficial election results that have come in. This is not the referendum on Mayor Gloria that Larry Turner was hoping for. And in a lot of ways, this was a litmus test for us to see whether this very vocal group of folks who are disillusioned with Mayor Gloria really do represent the majority opinion here. And based on these election results, it seems that that is not the case, that Mayor Gloria, it's looking like he will have a second term to push some of his agenda across the finish line. That, of course, includes homelessness and housing projects that he has been a very vocal advocate for. And Larry Turner had not been a proponent of some of those development projects. That being said, Turner, with some 45% of the vote, that isn't insignificant for someone who was a no-name in San Diego politics just a couple of months ago. This is a race we were watching really closely, and Mayor Gloria wanted this to be about experience. He has a decade and a half of experience serving San Diegans, and he wanted to ensure that that is what propelled him to victory here. Back to you.
Staff check for us this evening on this election night. San Diegans are also voting on tax hikes. Measure G, we want to give you a look at the results coming in, would raise the sales tax by 0.5 cent across San Diego County. Right now, 53% voting no, 47% voting yes.
Number of taxes on the menu tonight. Measure E would raise the city of San Diego sales tax from 7.75%, among the lower in the county, to one of the highest, to 8.75%. 51% also saying no, 49% yes. We're also getting more results in by the minute.
We will have another local election update for you coming up in the next hour. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome back to the NBC7 Election Night Special. Good to have you here. I'm Mark Mullen.
I'm Monica Dean. We're glad you're with us.
So this just in on the presidential race, NBC News projects that former President Trump will win the state of Georgia.
In the last election, President Biden won Georgia by just a few thousand votes. So let's take a quick look at where we are right now. Former President Trump leads with 246 electoral votes, and Vice President Kamala Harris has 189. Trump has won another key swing state, North Carolina. He's also won Texas, Florida, and others. The vice president has won states like California, Oregon, Washington, and others. Here at home, here's how San Diego County voted in the presidential race, with 43% of the vote in, 56% voted for Kamala Harris, which is just under 480,000 votes. As for former President Donald Trump, he received 40.9% of the vote, or about 345,000 votes. Still early in the night to call the race. Many swing states across the country, including Pennsylvania, Arizona, are still counting votes, and at this point, too close to call.
We've also learned that Vice President Kamala Harris will not address supporters tonight. That's according to two aides. Campaign co-chair Cedric Richmond will speak to the crowd. We're also keeping a close watch on who's going to have control of Congress after tonight. Which party holds a majority in the House and Senate could help boost or block a president's agenda.
So going into the election, Republicans held the majority in the House. Democrats controlled the Senate, with both parties holding a thin margin. NBC7's Omari Fleming shows us how the balance of power is shaping up at this hour. Omari.
So we've got a big shift that's going on right now, Monica and Mark. Republicans, they have retaken control of the Senate with 51 seats to Democrats 40 at this time. Let's take a look at that right now. You see that's 51 that the Republicans have, and again, 40 for Democrats. So essentially Republicans taking the lead right now. So Republicans gained control by flipping West Virginia, also Ohio, West Virginia right over there, and Ohio right next door there. But they could add even more seats since Democratic incumbents are losing in other states, though many races are still too early to call. Over in Pennsylvania, you've got incumbent Bob Casey. He is losing to Republican Dave McCormick, again in neighboring Ohio right there. Bernie Moreno, he beat incumbent Sherrod Brown, and that's a race where they spent $500 million not a piece, but together. Democratic incumbents also in Michigan, over here in Wisconsin. And then over here in Montana also, those incumbents are losing those races right now. So the Democrats, they are now hoping to flip the House. Both parties are racing to get to that 218 to get majority. So here's where the balance of power stands right now. Democrats have won seats. They've got 157 seats. So Republicans have 190 seats. And so far, the road to a majority could depend on several races right here in Southern California, including right up the street, so to speak, in Orange County. So I want to give you a look at those races right now. Derek Tran, he is leading Michelle Steele right now. They're attempting to flip the seat right now, held by that Republican. And then Democrat Dave Min, he is beating Scott Balk to keep that District 47 seat in Democrat hands since Katie Porter decided not to run. Again, a lot of moving parts in terms of the balance of power right now. The Republicans, they've taken the Senate, but right now, the House is still open right now. We'll keep you posted.
Now to the race for the 49th Congressional District, which represents coastal San Diego County, parts of Orange County as well.
Republican Matt Gunderson is challenging Democrat incumbent Mike Levin. NBC7 Shelby Brumer has the latest on that race. She is at the San Diego Hilton in Del Mar. Shelby.
Hi, guys. Good evening. So we're expecting Congressman Levin to come out any moment now. You can see his supporters have gathered at the front. They've got signs and flags. They're feeling pretty excited, and you can see that the results as of right now, he's up about 9 points, about 20,000 votes over Gunderson. So, see, there's a lot going on. So he's up largely in San Diego County. The 2/3 of the district is San Diego County, and about 1/3 is Orange County. Orange County is a little bit more conservative. San Diego County is more of Levin's stronghold. And he told me today that the district actually got more difficult for him in the 2020 redistricting. He lost some of San Diego County and moved into Orange County. You know, still very exciting, even though he did have a little bit of a harder race this time. I can step out of the way if you'd like, so you can hear a little bit of what's happening here.
I always start off with chant, right? Okay. Okay. Show me what democracy looks like. He can't even hear you, and he's right back there. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Okay, I'm going to teach you another one, but you've probably heard this already. but you got to do my other half, okay? When we fight, we win. Oh my gosh, I didn't even have to teach that to you. So I am so proud to be up here to introduce to you Mike Levin, Congressman from the 49th District in California. So how many of you remember 2017 when we were fighting ISA? Because when we fight, and he's gone, at least from here. So I met Mike in 2017, and do you remember ISA on the roof? Yeah? Well, I don't know how many of you know this, but Mike tweeted a picture of ISA on the roof, and it went viral. It went international, and that's what put Mike on the map. So fast forward now, 2018, and we flipped the 49th, and we have not looked back because we found out that when we fight, we win. Yes. So here we are, and Mike has been fighting for us ever since. Veterans issues, San Onofre, women's reproductive rights, gun violence prevention, the environment, San Onofre, and there's so much more. Because when he fights, we win. Woo. Oh my God. I am so proud to once again, and it turns out, I didn't even know this, for the fourth
Okay,
time.
listening in to the celebration, which is going on at Mike Levin's reception party right now. We'll check back with this as the candidate begins speaking.
Who's running against Republican Matt Gunderson, who is trailing right now Mike Levin. Yes, we will check back. We have Jackie Crea now, who has been following the city attorney's race. Let's go live to her and see how things are shaping up where she is.
Yeah, a lot of action and energy right now. We are in the lobby entrance of the Westin Hotel, where other reporters are as well. We're at the bottom floor. This is obviously the Democratic headquarters. We've seen various city and county officials. The city attorney's race, Heather Ferbert, the candidate who was up 56% to Brian Mainshine's 43%, did arrive about 20 minutes or so ago. Now, both she and Mainshine have really debated each other's qualifications for the city attorney job. They prosecute misdemeanors within city limits. They advise city council and the mayor, for example. Mainshine pointing out Herbert's lack of experience as an elected office. She's currently the deputy city attorney under incumbent Mara Elliott. Mara Elliott has thrown her support behind Ferbert, and Ferbert claims Mainshine hasn't actually been a practicing lawyer in decades. He's a state assembly member and has been, and prior to that, he was a city council member here in San Diego. Now, tonight, Ferbert was watching results come in at the local in downtown San Diego, just a few blocks away, along with her boss, Mara Elliott. We spoke to both of them. Okay. Well, essentially them just responding. They've kind of been on the defensive in the last couple of weeks. Mainshine speaking out and trying to poke holes in Ferbert's experience with the city attorney's office and her pushing for work on homelessness and housing. She worked with the Housing Commission before. Now, City Assembly member Mainshine, who we have not heard from tonight, actually, has not responded to emails or phone calls and have not seen him here at the Westin headquarters. He talks about the fact that he teaches law at USD. He has created many laws and has also got the support of Mayor Todd Gloria and others. That's what's going on right now. The crowd kind of waxes and wanes, but a lot of people here waiting for Mayor Todd Gloria to walk in. That's what we have for you right now. Send it back to you guys.
All right, Jackie Crea, thanks much.
All right, and now to the race for Assembly District, the 75th Assembly District. Republican Andrew Hayes running against former San Diego City Council member Carl DeMaio, who's also a Republican in this race. 75th Assembly District encompasses parts of the East County and portions of Inland North County.
All right, very well. Here are the latest results right now. Carl DeMaio, 61%. To Andrew Hayes's 39%.
And this is surprising, and we want to bring in our panelists now. We have Phil Muriello, who is an attorney, also host of the podcast California Underground, Joining him this evening, Kenya Taylor, who is with the NAACP, the San Diego chapter president. Thank you both for being here as we want some perspective on the 75th Assembly race. It's interesting because there was quite a bit of GOP endorsement for Hayes, yet we see Carl DeMaio way out in front. What do you make of that? Kenya, let's start with you.
Yes, it seems like there was outreach with Carl DeMaio early on, and very early on. His
you live
name,
in that district.
I do.
You know.
I do, and there's seldomly outreach to the residents of East County, our unincorporated areas. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that those residents are in favor of Carl DeMaio. It means there was outreach, there was an attempt, and people are looking for someone that will talk to them and ask questions. Unfortunately, there were a lot of people on a bipartisan nature who did outreach at the very end. Well, our East County residents, they voted early. And so when the ballots are already submitted, it's too late. So I would recommend that anyone who's looking to get the East County vote, continue to outreach and start building relationships now, because just because he won this time doesn't mean he's going to win again, but constant flyers, phone calls, text messages, it worked.
Phil, he's a career politician. He has a big name recognition, but did not receive a lot of the endorsement of the Republican Party.
Yeah, let's keep in mind that he has won only one race one time, and he's run for several. So this would have made him 1 for 5, I think, if he had lost this one. But this just goes to show, like, local celebrity. He was on the radio for a long time. He has that very influential PAC, Reform California, which is questionable in other ways. That sort of influence that he's exerted over San Diego County. But it just goes to show you, like Kenya said, name recognition can be everything in this race. And I think because of his local celebrity status, even though the Republican Party did not endorse him, he still had enough support and enough people who were dedicated to him that he was able to run up the tally here.
And you're certainly familiar with GOP politics, Phil. I mean, explain a little bit more about this PAC that he had, because I think a lot of people thought that essentially he's been a professional candidate, right? And is associated with this PAC to sort of keep fundraising if need be, and basically keep tied essentially to the political scene, but it seems to be working for him finally.
Well, there's been questions, and there has been a complaint filed with the FPPC regarding this and the idea of the one bank account rule regarding Reform California. And we did research on our podcast showing that people would click on an email for Carl DeMaio under Reform California, and it would take you to donations to his state assembly race or his race for central committee. So there's kind of questions about that, and there has been an FPPC complaint filed about that. The results haven't been known yet, but again, it seems to not have swayed the voters out in East County in the 75th district.
Phil and Kenya, thank you so much for your context and your perspective. Appreciate it.
We'll check back with you. Let's get out to our Joey Safchik. She's at the Democratic Watch Party downtown, where there's a lot going on this evening. Joey.
Good evening. I want to bring in Sean Rivera, the city council president, right away. You have a pretty strong lead right now. How are you feeling?
Feeling great. We're really, really proud of the way the voters are seeing the work that we're doing. This is the most diverse council district in the city, and to see the voters approve of the work that we've done and the vision that we have, that feels great.
What do you think it tells us that all three incumbents are doing well in their races right now?
I think it shows that San Diegans see that we're making progress. I don't think any of us believe that the city is perfect right now, but I think that they know that this is a tough job in a big city, and that we are doing our best to meet the needs of San Diegans and move the city forward in a positive way. I think it's a great sign that we're all being rewarded with a second term.
Has running in this race and being contested for your seat changed your perspective in any way on what you need to deliver for voters?
I wouldn't say changed it, but I think it's emboldened us. We're leaning. I don't shy away from my values. I don't shy away from the policy positions that I want to hold, and we lean hard into that in this race. We're going to reduce cost of living. We're going to take on corporate greed. We're going to lift wages up. We're going to try to support young families. We're going to try to create a San Diego where more people see a future for themselves.
And there's the mayor right behind you heading up to the podium. So thank you so much for speaking with us. We have Mayor Todd Gloria making his way up to the podium right now. We're expecting to hear from him in just a matter of seconds. I do want to say briefly, the mood in this room has shifted. It's a bit more mixed than it was just about an hour ago. Local Democrats like the council president, who you just heard from, and Mayor Gloria are performing well in their races, but there does seem to be a sense of dismay about the direction that some of the national races are trending in. Again, we're at Democratic headquarters here downtown right now, waiting for Mayor Todd Gloria to speak. Mayor Gloria, Council President Shawnee Rivera, Council Member Stephen Whitburn, all these incumbents citywide who are doing well in their races. I'm going to step aside so that we can listen in to Todd Gloria.
Well, thank you, Tasha. Thank you, Assemblymember Berner, for that introduction. And thank you, San Diego. I want to start this evening by thanking my family, who I'm joined by what day is it? What time? We've been campaigning hard. With my family, starting with my mother and father, Phil and Linda Gloria. Thank you both for being here. My big brother and his two beautiful kids who are here. Guys, thanks for coming here tonight. Appreciate being here. And to my partner, Adam, who's with me tonight. Appreciate you being here. None of us could do this work. None of us who serve in public service can do this work without the love and support of our families. It means so much to have you all here with me this evening. I want to thank my campaign team, Jennifer Tierney, the best of the best. Corey Palant, my fundraiser. Thank you, Corey, for all the hard work. Drew Lieberman, my pollster, and Coda Zeiser, where's he at? Leading our field efforts. Watch that space. And to every member of the Todd Squad who is here, all of our volunteers, everyone who knocked those doors and made those phone calls, I appreciate every single one of you. And I think almost every member of the mayor's staff is here tonight. Thank you guys so much. This is a validation of the hard work that you all have done for 4 years. I truly, truly appreciate it. To our county Democratic Party and all the volunteers who powered campaigns all throughout this region, thank you for powering this party that I've been proud to be a part of for over 25 years. This party has come a long way, and it's thanks to all of you. So thank you for all the hard work over the last number of months. You know, some of you poured your heart and soul into this campaign, and whether you donated, you walked, you phoned, or even if you just referred a friend, I'm grateful for your help in making sure that this result tonight, these early returns, are so favorable. You have proven what I've always known, that working together, we can truly build a city that reflects the highest of our ideals and a vision that we set as absolutely possible, a vision that puts people over profits, puts progress over politics, puts unity over division, hope over chaos. And thanks to all of you tonight, we are not turning San Diego around. We are going to move forward. My fellow San Diegans, we have so much more work ahead of us. The challenges our great city faces are very, very real. But I am more confident than ever that we have the ability to come together and tackle every single one of them. And we can do it, and we will do it together. Tonight, I want to close by imparting an important lesson that we've learned over the last number of weeks about our city. That San Diego belongs to the people, and we will not be sold off to the highest bidder. Our values, our votes, our city, and our voices cannot and will not be bought. And thanks to all of you, the voters of this city, I am confident that we will continue to move forward. Thank you all so very much for the trust, the support, and the belief that you've put into me and what we can accomplish when we work together. I have a very simple message this evening. Let's get back to work. Let's fill those potholes. Let's house the homeless. Let's keep our city safe. And let's build more housing that working and middle-class people can afford in this great city. May God bless you all. May God bless San Diego.
We just heard a very celebratory, jubilant speech from Mayor Todd Gloria. He was striking an overwhelmingly hopeful tone. As you can hear, there is a lot of excitement, very high energy in this room. Mayor Gloria really reinforced his message about housing, building affordable housing for the middle class. He says he wants to move San Diego forward, not take it backwards. He says the Todd squad was out in full force during this campaign. He said earlier today that he runs every campaign as though he's 10 points behind. And of course, early results show that he is in fact 10 points ahead of his opponent. But again, this was a speech that was quite optimistic, which does come in contrast to the tone in this room just moments before, where one of the speakers called on these local Democrats who are performing well in their races to be beacons of hope based on some of the early results we are seeing and the trends we're seeing in the national election. Again, a very triumphant tone from Mayor Todd Gloria, not claiming victory yet, but saying these are very promising early results. Reporting live downtown, Joey Safchik, NBC7.
Thanks, Joey.
All right, and we want to take a look at some more results here. You can see 58% for Shanilo Rivera, the council president, Terry Hoskins at 42. Within the city of San Diego, the incumbents are out in front tonight. And that's the story that we've seen play out with Mayor Todd Gloria, also Shanilo Rivera. Certainly the numbers aren't finalized yet, but that is where we stand right now.
Let's take a look at some of the other local mayoral races. There are 3 people running for mayor of Coronado. Current Mayor Richard Bailey's termed out. All of the candidates to replace him are current Coronado City Council members, John Duncan, Casey Tanaka, Mike Donovan. Here are the top 2 vote getters. John Duncan with 47% to Tanaka's 41%.
Voters in Encinitas are deciding whether to elect Mayor Tony Kranz for a second term or replace him with current council member Bruce Ellers. Housing is the central issue in this race. Encinitas has long had a reputation for resisting state housing requirements. In recent years, Mayor Kranz has ushered the city towards compliance. Ellers wants to see more control turned back to local government. Right now, you can see that the challenger, Bruce Ellers, is out in front with 52% of the vote. Incumbent Tony Kranz with 48%.
In Oceanside, incumbent Mayor Esther Sanchez is running for re-election. She's a Democrat who became Oceanside's first Latina and first female mayor in 2020. Sanchez is being challenged by Ryan Keim, a current Oceanside council member, also serves as deputy mayor. He is a registered Republican. He's also a former Oceanside police officer. Neck and neck, Keim 50%, Sanchez 50%.
And in Santee, incumbent Mayor John Bento facing challenger Kelly O'Brien, who's just 27 years old in this race. Bento, former San Diego police detective. O'Brien's a former Santee school district employee, says she's focused on government accountability. You can see clear lead here by John Bento with 79% of the vote to Kelly O'Brien's 21%.
Okay, coming up next, San Diego City Attorney. Now that Tamara Elliott has termed out, Brian Mainshine with 44% to Heather Furbert, who has 56%. She has worked as a deputy within that department for a while now.
And while we have these numbers in right now, results are still rolling into the Registrar of Voters office there in Kearny Mesa. The truckloads of ballots arriving from voter centers throughout the county.
Folks who won't be sleeping tonight, this small army of
Surely
election
not.
workers tallying the votes and delivering results. Alexis Rivas is monitoring it all from Kearny Mesa. Alexis.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be getting much sleep at all, Mark. About a dozen workers actually just took off with a little bit of food for their dinner break, so it's a little less people in here right now, but trucks are still coming in pretty solidly about every 15 minutes or so. I want to show you a little bit about what you're actually seeing here. So the trucks are dropping off all of the ballots coming in from those voting centers around the county. From there, they come in here, and if you can see the yellowish ballots kind of behind me with those group of folks back towards those tables, those are the mailed-in ballots. So the ones that are coming in the big gray bags, those are the ones that are in the envelope. So what they're doing really is just sorting them to make sure they're in the right direction, and that'll help them get scanned and checked in tonight. They're not going to be processed, as we've been saying already. They're really just going to be prepared so that they can get the barcode check and that signature check. That verification, that's what slows it down, because a machine will essentially go through, and if there's a high match, it'll be okay. But if there's not, a person will have to verify that that signature is the same person who signed up to register to vote. So if you go all the way a little bit over here, closer to, I guess, my left, these are the ones that are coming in these white boxes. This is the people that filled in their ballots at the actual voting location inside, like the gentleman we followed earlier tonight. What people here are doing, you might see them scanning through a bunch of them. They're just checking that they're okay. They're not damaged. There's not a copy stain. No one put a pen in there. There's nothing weird going on. And then as soon as that is done, those go immediately to the tabulation room, and they're going to be counted as soon as they can into those unofficial results that are going to come out throughout the night, tomorrow, the next couple of days. So still pretty busy here. And yeah, I think a lot of folks are kind of taking their coffees and preparing for what's probably going to be quite a long night and probably quite a long week for a lot of them too. Live from Kearney Mesa, I'm Alexis Rivas for NBC7.
It's fun to get the behind the scenes look. Thanks for sharing that with us, Alexis. Proposition 36 would strengthen punishments for certain crimes, including repeat drug offenses, selling fentanyl, retail theft. It is intended to address the increase in shoplifting and smash and grab robberies we've seen in California in the past several years. San Diego District Attorney Summer Stephan has been fully behind these changes. Opponents of Prop 36, including Governor Gavin Newsom, say it will take California back to mass incarceration and that there aren't enough substance abuse facilities to force more people into treatment. So here's a look at the numbers right now, and strong support for this proposition with 71% voting yes, 29% voting no right now.
Our guest, Kenya Taylor, San Diego chapter president, NAACP, and Phil Moriello, attorney and host of California Underground, join us to weigh in on this. Phil, you first. What's interesting is that as progressive as many policies have been adopted throughout California, the rank and file citizens here very often over history has shown to be pretty pro-law enforcement in some regards, yes?
Yeah, and I think this is just an example of how sometimes propositions that seem progressive and that should pass in states like California would pass easily or not be passed. In this case, I was looking at Prop 36 as probably the most consequential ballot measure and race that we saw tonight, because if anything else, it is an enormous rebuke of how criminal justice is handled by California. And that goes from Sacramento to localities. We're probably going to see George Gascon in LA lose. We're probably going to see Pamela Price. She's up for a recall. But it's a huge rebuke by Californians that they are no longer buying into this progressive soft on crime tactics. And by pushing back, I think it's hurt the ego of some incumbents like Gavin Newsom, who never like to admit that they're wrong. And this is just a rebuke of them. And it has, I think, a lasting effect on the electorate and races going forward, statewide, all over, from legislature to state Senate races to everything. So this is a huge shift in California sentimentality.
Kenya, let's talk about the impact that there was some concern would have disproportionately on communities of color, similar to maybe what we saw before Proposition 47. This proposition would amend Prop 47. Is there a concern about that?
There's definitely a concern. Our NAACP San Diego, our state NAACP conference is against Prop 36. I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist who's been the therapist for many people who've had Prop 47, PC 1000, and the other programs that work. Jail, prison should not be the largest mental health institution in America. I don't think the voters really knew what they were voting for. I understand we want our stores to be safe. However, the mass majority of people who have convictions aren't doing smash and grabs. I don't understand why this was lumped together. Therapy works. Therapy treatment with comprehensive education, connection to high-paying jobs, it works. After the mayor or whoever, DA, puts the people in jail, what are they going to do afterwards? This is an ongoing problem that they didn't think through. It's an ongoing problem that does not have a strategic plan. And I cannot say enough, mental health is a challenge. We don't have enough mental health providers, whether they're incarcerated or not. But also, this is not a prevention and early intervention opportunity for people to get better. Just like diabetes and high blood pressure, we shouldn't criminalize those who have drug and alcoholism. A number of us have it in our families or people we know. We are unfortunately impacting those people of color and those low-income families who can't have access to the resources because they don't have the money. This was not thought through, and I hope we figure out a solution for success for those who want treatment versus throwing people in jail. This one isn't right, and I'm very disappointed, and not just San Diego, but California on this one.
And Phil, just to sort of connect the dots, I mean, among the biggest criticism of this was that all of the money that it will take to incarcerate all of these extra people will pull away other programs that would help people. Your thoughts?
Well, I think to Kenya's point, there is something in Prop 36 about treatment mandated felony. So there is a mechanism in place that California has recognized, or the drafters of Prop 36 have recognized, that in terms of anything drug related or mental health or alcohol abuse, that has been put into place for Prop 36. So someone who is convicted of a felony can defer and go to this treatment mandated felony, where if they do complete the whole treatment process, they can have all of their charges dropped, which does give people that option of going to treatment, or if they don't, then they would have to face jail time. But it does at least provide that process so someone can get treatment rather than just going straight to jail.
All right, Phil Moriello and Kenya Taylor, thank you so much for your perspective. Once again, giving you a final look at the numbers as they stand right now. 71% voting yes on Prop 36 and 29% voting no.
Now for some of the other propositions. Prop 32 would raise the California minimum wage by $2 over the next 2 years to $18 an hour. That would give California the highest minimum wage in the nation so far. Results for Prop 32 show no, 52%, to yes, 48%. So no's winning.
Proposition 6 would ban involuntary labor in California prisons. Supporters are looking to close a loophole in the state constitution which bans slavery except as punishment for a crime. Right now, prisoners can be disciplined if they refuse to work the job they're assigned, which typically pays less than $1 an hour. If Prop 6 passes, there would still be jobs in prison, but inmates would get to choose whether to work or not. And right now, the results are 53% no to 47% yes.
So Prop 3 would enshrine the right to same-sex marriage in California in the Constitution. Same-sex marriage, as you probably know, has been legal in California for more than a decade. But what this is all about is that back in 2008, California voters approved a measure defining marriage as between a man and a woman in the state constitution. Basically, this proposition would scrub that off the books and codify and protect the right to same-sex marriage. Here's a look at results so far. 63% with an overwhelmingly yes vote to 37% no.
Prop 5 aims to make it easier for cities and counties to raise funds for affordable housing and infrastructure. If Prop 5 passes, local bonds backed by property taxes would only need 55% of the vote to be approved. Right now, bonds need a 2/3 vote. Supporters say Prop 5 would give communities the tools to address the challenges in their region, but critics argue the move could increase bond debt, leading to higher property taxes. Right now, 54% no and 46% yes on Proposition 5.
So local voters are weighing in on a number of potential tax hikes, and it comes at a time when people are still sort of really feeling the pinch of inflation, high grocery costs, high housing costs, and such. Measure E would raise the city of San Diego sales tax from the lowest in the county to among the highest. Early results showing 51% no to 49% yes. San Diego's current sales tax rate is 7.75%. If it were approved, and it does not looking like that's going to be the case, it would go up to 8.75%. Higher tax basically they would hope, generate 20% increase for the city's general fund. But once again, opponents say that's just really too high already.
And then on the heels of that, there is Measure G, which would raise sales tax by a half-cent across San Diego County. San Diego County estimates the half-cent hike would raise $350 million each year to pay for things like road repairs and expansions to bus and rail services. But at this point, 53% are voting no and 47% vote yes on this. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching our NBC7 Election Night special. We'll be back in about 15 minutes with another local election update.
And then join us for the news at 11 on NBC7. We'll have more updates on the biggest local races and ballot measures. You can also find the latest results online on NBC7.com. For Monica Dean, I'm Mark Mullin. Thanks for watching.
almost speech that you would hear on the campaign trail from.
Well, that's what he ran for, and is perhaps going to prevail on that very way of being. I don't know that he would have any incentive to change unless, he had felt in the moment some magnanimity towards.
I will make one bold prediction though, Savannah.
Yeah.
I predict that he won't say that anybody cheated.
Well,
remember though, even after he won election in 2016, he still made unfounded claims of voter fraud. So win or